have the list of responses to questions, does everybody have that as well?
Yep.
Okay, so you're all set on that. And then we have another new pile of paper, okay, and great, okay, so let's open the meeting, how about minutes?
Minutes are right here, can I read
Okay.
them?
We'll need a motion, has everybody read them, or?
I've read them, but I'm making a motion, we accept the minutes as written.
John, you wanna second that?
Do you want to second did you get to see the minutes? Are you okay with them? Do you want to
I
second?
wasn't here, was I?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, you are.
Oh.
It was last time.
I
Yeah,
shade.
you missed the one before that, I believe.
Right.
Yes.
See, that's
I
why,
did,
that's why
I
we need
did
the
note
other
you
lady
in
here.
there.
Oh, you
Next-
did too?
no,
That
it's too
I
late.
said that, I noted your opinion on the zoning board. Cause you were pretty clear.
I
on
try to
that.
be. I'm never accused of being
Or
held back anyway.
some
let's
might
put it
say
that way.
blunt,
Yes, I
to a
hope so.
fault, to a fault, but of course,
Oh, yes.
that is good.
Yeah, that looks fine. I second that.
Alrighty.
Any more discussion? Okay, there being none, all in favor? It's unanimous, and we're done with the minutes. So, this meeting, the sole purpose of it is to get to voting on things. I know we're down one member, but I feel like we've mulled it over a lot. At the last meeting, we had pretty good discussions, and we have the answers to the questions that we raised on the line items in the omnibus, okay. But we have not reviewed the special town meeting warrant. I thought we should probably review that and vote that first, just to get that out of the way, if that's all right with everybody. Is that fine? So the first is the special town meeting warrant, Article 1, are the transfers. And should we check the math, are we good?
You can do whatever you want.
I know, sometimes we check.
Let's
the
assume it will be fine.
math. Let's assume it adds up.
It's-
Very good.
Little spelling error on the
Oh, where?
finance.
Finance.
Oh, yeah.
Finance.
It's a little catchy. Little
I like-
music to it.
That's how you know she's a numbers person. It's like, now I have to figure out what letter doesn't belong there, it takes me forever, okay, I'm good. All right,
Just an extra A.
that's good. Finance, just in case.
I mean,
So office expenses, tax title. Are all of these office expenses in one department, the transfers to 1,000, 2,750?
Yep, finance.
Okay, and then, conservation is not taking their stipends
Correct.
and taking part of a salary from whom?
They're a conservation agent. She's
Oh.
part-time and just works hourly, so they have extra money in that.
Okay, and they're putting that into expenses. Okay. What is their, total expense line for this month, for this year?
They have an odd expense line, because they only budget for about 1,200, and then the remainder of it comes from their fees.
Okay.
So I'd have to look. So currently,
Is that 1,200 in the omnibus?
yes.
Okay. So this is a pretty big chunk into the omnibus.
Well, they're just reallocating it within their department.
Right, so they have an article every year, correct?
Correct. They have two articles, one to cover salary, one to cover expenses.
But it's not a revolving account, it's just a,
Correct. It's a fees account that
okay.
they can legally then appropriate out of a town meeting.
And we vote how much they can appropriate at the article.
We
right?
vote the actual amount.
Yes, okay, and then just this year
They do this every year. Any leftover money, they always take their stipends and roll them into their expense line. But they don't want us
Oh,
to
okay.
budget for it because they make a decision that if someone during the year chooses to have it, they allow them to take the stipend, then they move what's left into expense. And then
what happens?
they will pay off any reimbursements, any mileage, anything like that that they've incurred that they haven't expended.
Okay. Cause couldn't they spend that from their article account?
they can only spend what's appropriated.
Okay.
So they're planning for this on top of what's already being appropriated.
Okay, I see, okay. And municipal buildings needs $2,500 more for supplies.
Yep.
Okay.
The cost, now that we have a full-time facilities and custodian, he is going through more materials,
Cause he's doing things.
because he's doing things, right? So he's using more cleaning products, the paper products, we go through a ton of toilet paper, things like that. So this isn't sort of out of the ordinary, that at the end of the year, we tend to run a little bit short in that line.
Okay, and the property and casualty needs 5,000, is that?
It's the VZ insurance that we're covering, and, we got hit with a workers' comp adjustment mid-year, cause when they came out to do an audit, they had to reappropriate our, assessment.
Okay.
Okay, alright, and then company reports, of course. $99,000,
That's what he told me he'll need for the rest of the year.
Sorry, where's the
Well-
9,000? I don't see it on.
9,400.
What was
Oh,
it?
94.
What
Oh,
was
that one.
appropriated for the full year for company reports, because we doubled that for them, like 7,000, right?
Yes.
Yes, 6.
Well, there wasn't one before, so it was 7,000.
What
There was no
is
company reporting
reports?
before.
We don't know.
It's a report.
Company reporting is supposed to be the officer or firefighter that comes in and does the reporting after an incident. So they go through and file it, put the incident in the system, document it.
So this is pay.
This is pay. In the past, they used to lump it under the call wage line, and just if they came in and took an extra hour, they would put it under that. Now they're splitting it out so that we can actually see what's incidents and what's reporting. It's just, and I've had a conversation with him, and in the proposal, I've cut the company reporting because hopefully that a new chief comes in and addresses that. It's out of control. We're paying for like everything and everyone to come in and do reporting, and it's a lot.
My observation from some of the things that I looked at is that it's not just reporting the calls, it's payroll, trying to add things up again, readjust things, and it's just taking an inordinate amount of time, whereas once you get a fire chief in here, he'll just put a new system in place, and then you won't be correcting, readjusting, and re-adding up all of these numbers over and over again. It is out of control. But
But it is what it is.
is there any deficit now?
I don't, let me double check.
Cause could we put a smaller amount in with a cautionary note and then wait to the end of the year for the end of year transfers?
You can.
I'm kind of worried that you put the full amount in. We're still gonna owe at the end of the year.
The only thing I will say though is the selectmen already voted that, as it appears.
Okay,
So we could put something under finance board recommends if you wanna recommend a different amount, or you could request to amend it on town meeting floor, but they approved the article as written.
is there going to be any control on this from now to the end of the year so that there's not another deficit at the end of the year then? That's my concern, is that we're gonna fill the pothole now and that at the end of the fiscal year, there'll be another deficit. Because we're not really sure, honestly, what we're paying for, and the hourly rates range from anywhere from $20 an hour to $30 an hour, depending on who's doing it, to $32 an hour.
Like if a lieutenant
For
does
clerical
it,
work.
yeah.
Yes,
Well,
exactly. So,
I don't have a problem reducing.
except we don't really know what to reduce it to, either.
Right, cause this is the first year we've tracked it separately,
Okay.
so,
Is
And
there
if
any,
there's another transfer later, then that's
That will be the final
the
transfer.
final transfer,
Yeah, that's out of budget transfer.
and we really try to discourage that.
correct.
Well, let's
So-
move on because we got a lot to cover here.
could we ask that for the remainder of this year, they document the activities,
Well, that'll be more.
that we know what it is?
If
I
they-
mean, they're getting paid for the hour anyway, have them write down what they actually did for that hour. I mean, because my understanding from Chief Lay when he got the new system in, was that whoever did the run, they would just sit down and click on the computer, it's done, part of the run. right?
Right.
Push a button. And that doesn't seem to be how the system's working, if it's taking this many hours.
I have a
Well, I
joke.
don't think it's the system. I think their software works that way. I don't think they have protocols in place or anything in place to prevent everyone from sitting down and doing this.
Okay, all right, I get that. All right, well,
I'd be inclined to leave it because I would rather not do a
I agree.
additional transfer at the end, but maybe this, if somehow we can communicate that we don't want to do another final transfer and it should be kept within this amount. And know that there'll be a new chief in place
Right.
and that this isn't going to
And they're
continue.
funding it out of their own
And
budget.
they're funding it out of their own
Yeah,
budget.
they are,
Okay.
you know, their drills. On the good note, I'm very happy with the snow and ice deficit. Is that it?
And actually, that's a little more because we're waiting to see if there's any additional invoices. We're at about 16,000 over right now, so the 20 should
Cover.
more than cover it unless, God forbid, something else comes up.
Yeah.
But that should more than cover it.
There was a little snow last night.
Yesterday,
Yes.
I was very upset. Did you see the town crier?
Aren't you lucky you're not in
Everybody
South
was very
Dakota? They
upset.
have 24 inches.
And Nashua, New Hampshire had snow.
Yeah.
And the last one, I guess I'll step out of the room. I know nothing.
Well,
It's a
this is-
cemetery, so
Well-
my husband's a
Well, you
commissioner.
have to stay,
right,
I'll
but
step out, you chair.
but, well, you have to
I'll
abstain or
abstain from the
whatever.
vote of that amount.
What's the next
Should
one?
we, yeah, discuss it and then I'll come back. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's fine. So the cemetery, no, it's the same article, it's just the cemetery transfer.
Oh.
So this is something I told them that I would do for them.
Okay.
They need a leaf picker-upper and missed the deadline for their budget and capital. And we're going to be hard pressed to not have something this fall. So I told them if we had money at the end of the year for the transfers, I would transfer 6,000 into their line to allow them to purchase that for the fall. So that's what that is.
So they didn't meet the deadline of your request for capital improvements. They just.
It technically doesn't meet the threshold for
Because it's not
capital because
10.
Oh,
it's not
that's
enough,
right. It's 10 grand.
but they
That's-
didn't budget for it either. They missed every deadline, but then came and said we really need it and we missed it and we're stuck. And
Okay.
so I told them if we had money at the time, I didn't know where we were going to be for fiscal 20 with. So I said if we had it in 19, I would transfer it in so that you could purchase it at the end of the fiscal year and have it ready for the fall.
So how much money do we have for these projects? I mean, here you've got this transfer, this money here.
Yep.
50,150. Is that all that we collected? Is that it?
No, that's what we're taking out of those lines on the
Ah,
left and putting
those
it
are
into the
being
lines on the
reduced.
right.
Okay, there is
So
some
it's
other
all coming
gravy
out.
somewhere. Okay.
Oh, yes.
it's all budgeted, it's going
Yes.
out of
I understand the
Yes.
concept.
Okay, Kathy.
Okay, Kath,
And just so,
we're gonna cut trees down instead of getting a leaf remover.
and company reporting right now is short $3,700.
Who?
Company reporting is currently in a deficit $3,700.
Oh,
But they know they're not really supposed to spend money they don't have, right?
They do, but it's payroll and we can't not pay people when they work. That's
Okay.
illegal.
So,
So
how
they
about-
should not be allowed to work if they
right,
don't have
because
the
we
money.
have a salaried, we still have a salaried interim chief that could supposedly do this in order to not run up on deficits. Okay, so what I would suggest is, let's see, there's nothing that I have to abstain from on the transfer from line, so I can vote that line.
Mhm.
And then I can vote this
Well, you can
line.
vote everything and just be an abstention in the actual count of the vote. So you can vote,
I can just abstain,
you could just abstain from
because
both
the
if you wanted.
cemetery's in it, is that bit easier than
That's
taking out the
easier.
cemetery?
Yeah.
Okay, so go
Whatever.
ahead and make a motion for the whole shebang, and I'm gonna abstain just because the cemetery's involved.
I still don't think there's a conflict just because your husband's on it.
I know, but I just think it's easy to abstain. It's
Okay.
just, that way nobody can say that I'm helping the cemetery get oodles of money.
Okay.
I make a motion, we accept Article 1 for the transfer of funds and 2 in total for $50,150.
Second.
Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor? And I'm going to abstain because my husband's a cemetery commissioner. So that's done, and that's the whole special, that's it?
For
Yeah.
special, that's it, just one article.
Yeah.
This
No-
is the best special we've ever
We
had.
have no other special town meeting business that anyone's asked for.
Congratulations, students. Look at this. She's
Mm.
gotten it down on one page.
Yeah,
So the annual town meeting will begin at 7:05, and we will not be sitting there waiting until 7:30. We will have the special at 7 and the annual at 7:05 as soon as Article 1 is done.
if we have 100
Fantastic.
people by 7, that's fine.
We will.
I mean,
But
If,
it's
yes,
gonna
again,
take 7
this is
years
another
to
good
read through
decision because
the,
we do sit there watching the clock.
Yep.
And
the 8-page revision to the school, contract.
Well,
they're
you-
not gonna have an issue, that's not gonna be any issues with them.
okay,
That's when we say suspend the reading of it.
That's when you can do this too.
I don't know how to do that.
Oh, baloney.
So would you like to go through the articles, or do you wanna do the budget? What would you like to do first, now that we're into the,
what's your
Alright.
preference, people?
I have no problem.
Let's-
Wanna run through the
let's-
articles? They're
let's-
pretty quick.
And then we'll do the money.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll do the money.
Sure.
Okay, let's go.
so if you don't mind, Kathy, if I can take over a little bit, and
Go
I'll just
right
quickly go through them.
Yep.
Let me just get to my page here. So Articles 1 and 2 are standard Chapter 90 articles. Article 1 requests it from the state, Article 2 appropriates it. The amount that they've granted for fiscal 20 for us is $210,998. Do you wanna vote as we go through? How would you like to do the voting?
Let's just vote them as we go.
Okay, so I'll group them together, so those
One and
two
two.
are
Alright. That was 1 and 2?
1 and
Yes.
2.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Actually, I'll do 3 as well. So
Three.
3 is a standard article as
3
well for the
vets, yeah,
VFW.
okay.
So those 3 are standard, we do them every
Yeah,
year.
I read
You wanna
that.
make a recommendation for 1, 2, and 3?
I'm fine as written.
Just say favorable.
Uh,
We need to vote.
Second.
Did you
We-
make,
I make a motion, we accept Articles 1, 2,
I
and
seconded
3
it.
as written.
okay,
May I just, so instead of accepting, can you make a motion for favorable action?
yes.
Cause that's actually the motion you're gonna make to town meeting.
Favorable action.
Favorable action on 1, 2, and 3, please.
I'm making a motion that we have favorable action on Articles 1, 2, and 3.
Second.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, all in favor of Articles 1, 2, and 3?
Okay,
In favor of Articles 1, 2, and
Yes.
3?
all right.
Is this a
Moving
yes from
on.
you, from John?
Sorry?
Did you
Is
vote
a
in favor?
yes?
I voted
You
seconded.
voted already.
Yes,
No, the second is a second, the vote is a vote.
I know, but if I seconded it, it's obviously I'm voting for
But
it.
you still have to vote. Okay, but
And
okay.
it's okay, let's all get
Move
along.
We're
on.
good,
Move on.
we're good, we're
I
fine.
need-
Favorable, favorable,
And did
favorable.
you actually vote that also?
Yeah, I usually don't vote, but I'm used to it.
Okay.
Article 4 doesn't really pertain to you, but I'll let you know, it's, a request from the town planner, so that if a board member misses a public meeting, when it comes to applications, it requires members to be present at all meetings. This would allow a member to miss one single session, but certify that they've examined all the evidence, watched the meeting, and then they could participate in that, so.
Oh, that's nice. That's not for us.
Articles 5 and 6. Article 5 is to allow us to consolidate personal property tax bills when the annual tax is less than $100. Right now, we're sending out like $30 bills per quarter. We only bill twice a year. So this would save us money on printing and postage to just be able to send one bill for small personal property bills. Article 6 is very similar. This allows us to exempt up to $5,000 of value on personal property. So again, so instead of sending out a $1.94 tax bill, we can just exempt that because we're not really losing anything on these very small personal property bills. These were both recommended by the Board of Assessors.
Oh, okay.
So what happens there, if it's below that amount, you're not losing money though?
We're losing dollars. I mean, we send out bills for like $1.97.
Oh, okay.
97
All right,
cents
all
to,
right.
so
It's not
it's
worth the
minimal that
trouble.
we're losing, but
Okay.
again, it's just a waste of
You're not
time and
paying for
effort.
Postage and the tracking.
Correct,
that.
and if they're not, we have to try and collect them and go through the, it's just a waste of
So
time
this is
and energy.
property like real estate plus?
This is just personal property, so on things like equipment, cash registers, scales, so it's on the businesses in town that have personal property within their
So
business.
it's not excise tax on
It is not
property?
excise
No,
tax,
okay.
no,
So it's just personal property?
correct. It's just to help us with really the administrative side of it and clean things up instead of billing
Okay,
and chasing down small bills.
all right. Someone wanna
So
make a
just
motion on
those
that
two.
for
Make a-
5 and 6?
Making a motion, favorable action on Articles 5 and 6.
Second.
Okay, any more discussion?
And that means I voted for it.
No,
by the
it
way.
doesn't, you still have to vote. Okay.
Technically, the second just allows discussion.
That's
I'm
my-
That's
aware of
really
that.
how the second is for.
I'm aware
So,
of that.
any more discussion? There being none, I'll call for the vote, all in favor of Articles 5 and 6, favorable
Yeah,
action?
okay.
Yes.
There we go. Okay, favorable, unanimous, thank you.
Article 7 is to change the position of town clerk from elected to appointed. Provided, however, that for such change to take effect, it must be approved by the voters at the 2020 annual town election. The selectmen decided, instead of doing it the way we handled the road commissioner, where we did a special legislation and non-binding ballot question, they chose to do a regular town meeting article, and then it will appear on next year's ballot. And it is a binding ballot question, so it requires both town meeting and the town election to approve that
Next year's ballot.
next
But
year's
would
ballot.
people know next year what it's about if it's not discussed at next year's annual town meeting?
Well, it will still read on the ballot, you wish to change the elected town clerk to appointed. I mean, it's a simple question on the ballot.
It's
Right.
like the tree warden question
Right.
that I
I'm
just
just saying, that
answered.
usually we have a discussion at the town meeting, and then a week
Mm.
later you go to the ballot and you vote on something, so you kinda know.
No, but I think the questions are normally discussed at candidates night, so there should
Oh,
be a
so they
refresher
should.
at candidates night
Okay.
next year.
So
I will
they-
tell you, the
Yeah.
selectmen were not unanimous on this,
Yeah.
so they chose to make a recommendation at town meeting because there was a stalemate of one, and one at the
Oh.
meeting the other evening.
Yeah, that's really the reason, it's not because it's logical.
Okay.
Well, part of it is some members have wives running.
It's
Yes, so Mike
okay that they did
abstained.
it, but they ducked the issue.
So it will be discussed at their meeting on Tuesday, and then they will make a recommendation on the floor of town meeting.
Okay,
That's
well,
fine.
can someone make a motion right now so we can get the discussion
Ma-
going on this?
Making a motion that we take favorable action on Article 7.
I'll second that.
Second, all
All
right,
right.
third it.
Okay,
third.
that's not the
third.
vote yet, that one discussion. So, what are our reasons, do we have them still, for why we would recommend favorable on this?
Oh, we've discussed it before,
Right.
ad nauseum actually,
And we have,
so I don't think we need to.
well, we need to be able to state them to the town meeting, don't you think?
Oh, yes.
Well-
Well, we can rely on you to do that.
There's two reasons. One is because there's the thought that the Board of Selectmen would conduct a thorough interview process, which is thought to be more involved than some of the voters who may or may not watch candidates night, may or may not know exactly what is needed in that role. And then the second is that there would then be a level of accountability to the
Right.
Board of Selectmen on a regular basis as opposed to at an election every 3 years.
Right, so there's the accountability, there's the interview, and I thought of a third one,
Tell us.
continuity.
The other
If we get somebody that we like in the position, whether through election or otherwise, if it's still under the election laws, then it's another popularity contest the next year, no offense, because it kind of is.
Well, we've
It's-
had certainly continuity.
Right, we have had continuity
In
through the
this
election,
particular.
but right now where you see we have 5 people vying for the job,
Right.
I see there's a renewed interest in this position, and I think that it takes a while to learn the job, and once we have someone in there that learns the job and knows how to do it well, I would hate to lose them to an election process, and then we have to, the change out alone is complex for the town clerk, when you think about it,
The question I have is this.
yes.
If we pass this article, what happens to the people who have been voted in?
They stay,
They have to
They
finish up
stay, they have to finish out their term.
yes.
So they would become appointed upon passage at the ballot to through the remainder of their term. So if this passes in 2020, they would become an appointed town clerk as of May 7th, 2020,
I got it,
through 2021.
okay.
So would the Board of Selectmen have to vote that they vote their appointment duly voted to honor
Yes.
the agreement? Yes, okay.
Yes.
And then
If it were, this year, when the position is up, then it would take effect as soon as it was
Right.
past the ballot. But because it's midterm, then the person gets to serve out their first term, or their term.
Right.
Okay.
So their vote's a rubber stamp. It's just they will vote in agreement with the election.
They have no choice, yes. The law, they
Regardless.
have to vote.
Right,
They have
First
to
and
do
Ann as the
that,
first.
right, okay.
and that's
Decision
fair,
maker.
okay. I mean, can you think of any reasons why you would wanna keep this as an elected position, honestly? from a finance board point of view.
No, I know that the concern that I have heard is that it's taking the vote away from the voters of the town, but the voters of the town are still controlling the Board of Selectmen who are making the decision, so I feel very comfortable with it. In fact, I feel most comfortable with the appointed.
I have a neutral position on it,
You do?
Mhm.
you know. I don't see in that that particular position, it means anything one way or another, to me personally. So I'm hoping whoever wins that election can fill that job
Can
and
fill the
keep it.
job and learn it, yeah, that would make
So-
sense. They will have they'll have their foot in the door and they'll certainly get trained.
Yeah,
So
maybe.
most people arrive at that job without,
But I
the
do
training,
know
yeah.
when May 6th rolls around at midnight, we don't have a town clerk.
So the town clerk informed me today that that's not accurate. She told me by opinion from the West Newbury town clerk, that a new town clerk cannot be sworn in until 7 days following the
Well,
election.
that's good.
So that her last day is technically 7 days later.
that would make sense.
would
They close out
really
the
good.
election, right?
Well, I think it's something that, because election results can be contested, and you have 7 days to contest that. So I think as long as that time period ends, then it's a true elected position.
Could we ask the current person in that position to guide the new person? No?
There is no money in that budget, so
No, but just informally,
I've been told that's not the case.
or she doesn't wanna do it, or it's illegal.
Would be looking for compensation to do it. That's why we've asked to allow people to go in there and shadow her up until the election, so that they have a chance to see where things are. That request was denied.
Yeah, I don't know that you want people going into the town clerk's office and just moseying around. I mean, we haven't only,
We've had people
Fortunately-
doing that all the time down there.
well, under, for
Right, well, the
other reasons,
request was
but
to shadow her and have
Right,
her show people where
but
things
this
are.
would be taking people who are running for the election and putting them,
Well,
that
one
is,
of them already works in there.
okay,
part-time,
but
so-
that's neither here nor there. I guess we're fortunate that we've only transitioned through town clerks a few times since I've lived here. We
12
had
years.
Dick Abbott forever and ever, and after Dick Abbott, we had Dick Shaka forever and ever and ever, and then Ann Brody. So, I'm just thinking that perhaps we're entering a new era where people view that job as favorable, something they might want to do. We've never had this many people running for this job before. I
Well,
believe
it's one of the it's the only real paid job, other than the fire chief at this
for
point.
that's elected.
So,
It's, as
yeah.
far as elected
Yeah.
positions, right?
And,
Yes.
Right.
and the police,
Right.
Police is in, yeah, well,
Well, it's not elected.
it's not elected.
not elected.
Right, I think when Anne expressed her intent to retire,
It
people
generated-
jumped at the chance to, I don't think people wanted to run against her
Right.
in the last few elections.
Right, and in a way, it's kind of, it's a compliment that people would like to work for the town. I think it's a good thing, not a
Yeah.
bad thing.
I
There's
agree.
this much interest, I mean. So, things are going well in the town and people wanna work for the town, that's positive. Right, Mr. Osborne?
Very true.
Very,
Okay.
that's so sensitive.
Moving on,
Let's go take a vote. All in favor of our recommendation favorable on Article 7?
Yes.
I vote yes too, it's unanimous.
Article 8 doesn't really pertain to you all, it's to accept a public roadway,
Okay.
so,
Sunset Circle,
either this
Yes.
is-
where is that?
off of Salem Street, it's where the
To
house
Red
burnt
Light.
down.
Oh,
Sunset.
I haven't noticed that road, okay.
It's just a small little cul-de-sac
It's a
with
new
3
one.
houses.
Yes, okay.
Article 9 is for the Board of Selectmen to put a conservation restriction on 8 acres of land for turtle protection as a result of the community trail.
We're not relevant to that.
No, you are not.
No, move on.
I just thought you should
If it's not
know,
relevant to us, why don't we just move it?
if you'd rather not hear them, that's fine, I just didn't wanna skip one and have you not know what it's about.
I think that's fine, I think it's a brief enough update, we should,
Article, sorry, I skipped ahead here.
Article 10.
Article 10 is the regional, Pentucket Regional Agreement, to make a couple of changes within the document that are highlighted and underlined. They would like to add in language to offer a contingency plan in case of an emergency, how long that contingency plan can be in place, and then we, redid the makeup of the, we removed the regional advisory committee because it hasn't met in years.
Okay,
So this retooled it to be the main finance person for the town, the school committee, the business manager, superintendent, with the Board of Selectmen recommendations. So
okay,
they're minor changes, but they are things that really should be made at this time.
okay, and they've made some changes under the budget section, is that anything?
It's the same, just
Oh,
to
it's
take
just
out
the
who
committee,
meets,
okay.
yeah, it's just the
Alright,
committee
alright,
discussion.
That's fine. Oh, and that's mainly what it is then?
Correct,
Okay, okay.
right, that's all, those are the only
Okay,
changes.
so they're changing the nature of that committee.
Correct.
Okay, so
Correct.
do we have a, do we need to recommend?
I
them?
didn't put it down there, cause it really doesn't
No, because
include,
it's not financial, it's about the contingent, it's about the advisory group,
correct,
which we don't
Correct.
have anything to do with.
correct, so I didn't put a recommendation from you all.
Okay,
Article 11, though, I guess not either, but Article 11 would allow electronic voting to take place at town meeting. The selectmen have tossed that around for a few years now. We couldn't introduce it unless we had a bylaw in place, so this just gives the opportunity that should we decide to go to an electronic handheld voting device,
Yeah.
we're able to.
okay.
Does it have paper trail afterwards? Or
Nope.
is it, oh, that's no good.
Well, it's no
Does it-
different than a current town, instead of raising your hand, you would just press the button, yes or no, on the device. So it's
So
Oh.
we're
accurate count.
confident.
Oh, this is in the town.
just, this is just town meeting.
Oh, town
Yep,
meeting.
Yep, so it
okay.
would give you a precise count.
Okay,
And confidentiality.
Correct, right, so we've had the issue that people are afraid to vote, or raise their hand for certain sensitive articles. This would eliminate all of that. So again, it's not requiring us to, it's not giving us permission. We would still have to fund the devices should
Right.
we choose to go. It just gives us the option.
I remember that.
And then the next is stormwater.
Yeah, so the next one doesn't pertain to you guys either, but it's, a bylaw to address the stormwater system. We were supposed to approve this in 2008, and it's never been provided. So, this is just regarding the EPA and the MS4 permits that we're required to now undertake.
Is there going to be hearing on this bylaw at all? So the whole discussion will take place at town meeting? if
Yeah,
it was
I don't
on-
expect much,
Okay.
just because it's, again, we really don't have any choice in the matter.
Okay,
Our permit is in effect, and we are required to have this in place, so.
okay,
Article 13 is the first of the community preservation articles.
right,
This one is for, actually the town planner for the $20,000 piece of her job.
yeah.
She will work on preparing an implementation plan to create and construct affordable housing. So that is for, I don't know, do you wanna do the CPA ones individually, or do you wanna do them together?
Well, just to clarify, so Article 13, the $20,000 there
Yes,
will actually be paid as a salary to the town planner?
yes,
is it?
correct.
And does it say that clearly, I mean, is that clear? But we can make a note in the omnibus about that.
Yeah, so her
So this is
omnibus salary
actually-
is $20,000 less,
Right.
because she's supplemented through, her work with community preservation.
Right, so it's just salary to the town
Yep.
planner. Okay. Do we wanna make a motion on this?
Yep, I'll make a motion. Favorable action.
In a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any more discussion about this?
I wanna talk about Article 19.
Okay, there being none, all in favor of Article 13? Say aye, or raise your
Yes.
hand.
I didn't
Yes.
think you were gonna add that as a finance thing.
Okay, Article 14.
Article 14 is the second CPA article, for $26,000 to make VZ Park, ADA compliant.
Okay. It's not that much money. Can I have a motion on this?
And that will, the remaining 10% cost will be covered by a grant, because that, I mean, right, my question was, that will cover all of making VZ Park compliant?
No,
So it'll make it 90%
one.
compliant.
Phase
they need an elevator or a lift to make it fully compliant,
And
so
that's-
people that can't walk can get into the main room.
So they're gonna pursue a
So
grant for that.
next year, there'll be
putting in
possibly a grant and maybe some
Right,
extra
they're
money.
saying that footnote will cost over $200,000.
the remaining 10% of projects costing over
$200,000. That's an elevator, yeah. It's gotta be pricey,
Mm.
for
Mm.
the lift.
yeah.
I thought of around 90 to 100 grand, but boy, just shows you how you,
Okay, but
Costs
this will
go up.
get it largely covered.
Yes.
All right,
Okay, so do we have a motion in favorable action on this?
I make a motion,
Yes.
we take
I think
favorable
Ruth made the
action.
motion.
yeah,
Oh,
I
second.
made the motion for that.
Oh, and
last one.
seconded, okay.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Who made the
Aye.
motion? Jim?
You did.
Yeah.
I made the motion on the last one.
On the last
Oh,
one.
I'm
she did,
sorry.
right?
Okay,
Jim made
then
the
Jim
motion, I
made it.
seconded
Okay.
it.
Okay, so Jim,
made
Alright.
the motion,
Jim and John, JJ.
JJ.
Didn't vote, sorry.
All in
Didn't
favor?
vote.
Signal.
Aye.
Yes.
Good, okay.
Article 15 is for $23,000 to paint Washington Hall.
It needs to be painted.
Does it need to be painted?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
motion on this?
The cost is irrelevant, it has to go out for bid anyway.
Well, it's a part of the community preservation fund and stuff. It isn't gonna make a hole in our taxes, is it?
No,
Okay.
but it is your tax dollars that go to.
Oh, I understand that.
Okay,
And
so
it'll
we do like
take
to
away
watch
from
over
some-
them.
I'm all for
else.
maintaining buildings, which, you know, I
Yeah.
keep on seeing the school wasn't maintained, so why don't we just
Unfortunately, yes. I
make
think so.
sure that
Okay,
what
so do we have a
what we
motion?
own, yes,
You made a motion,
making a
Joe?
motion, be
Second.
favorable.
Okay,
on,
it's moved and
Article
seconded.
16.
All in favor?
No.
Try to give it a little more zest on
Oh,
it.
you mean to show a little more,
I'm watching
a
it
little more
closely. Once I got a
enthusiasm?
half a thumb and I took that too.
A half a thumb is good, isn't
I
it?
know, I
That's
saw
pretty
it,
good, huh?
but I saw it.
You like that?
Article
Nice touch.
16 is $70,000 for phase 2 of improvements of the Pines, which include hydro seeding the new fields, adding guardrails, and replacing the pavilion roof.
Okay.
Replacing the pavilion roof? It's gone bad already?
There's been concern about it, yes. Oh, no,
Wow.
yes, yes.
It's been there
Still,
for a
I mean, it's
while,
only
but-
been built.
No,
not long ago.
Well, like more than 10 years ago, I would say.
10?
Yeah,
Wow.
I think so. It's been there a while.
Has it now?
Yeah,
Just
before
so-
the hill got removed, right? The hill was there
Mhm.
when we had
Yeah,
the pavilion.
yeah. Okay.
So,
All right.
okay, so they're going to hydro seed, but they already have irrigation, right? So we're not gonna do hydro seed until there's irrigation.
Correct. Irrigation is part of the last CPA article that they
Okay.
reappropriated to do
We,
three
we,
quarters
we changed it to the one that Bill Dunn recommended,
Okay.
so we have funding for that.
Yes.
This
Okay.
is the $180,000 solution,
Okay.
pumping it out of the river.
Are we no, we're not pumping.
No.
No, okay. Okay, so make a motion for Article 16 for favorable action. Do we have a motion?
Second. Oh, I make the
This is
motion.
17.
This is
16.
16,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
make the
okay.
motion,
One,
yeah.
right?
So favorable action.
one article.
Motion by
Oh.
John.
Okay, we need
I'll second that.
Ruth has seconded it, good. Ready to vote, all in favor of Article 16?
Yes.
Yes, it's
Hey,
unanimous.
hey.
Okay, we got this.
Right
Article
back at you.
Article 17 is for $10,000 to make available for open space and recreational trails with the development of trails. This is to work with the Bagnell School. So this is a 3-year partnership with the Bagnell. They do
Oh.
projects and
We
things.
heard about this from Mike Dempsey.
Yes, so this is $10,000 for that
The
project.
fourth grade.
But then it says,
Yes,
and a
what
sum
comes-
of up to $20,000.
That's the buy land. That's another one, isn't it?
Oh, no,
It's
I'm
in
sorry,
the
you're
same
right.
article.
It's 10,000 from open space and 20,000 from the general fund reserve. They took it, it's $30,000 in
Okay,
total,
so it
my
is
apologies.
30,000, that's
Yes.
okay.
From 2 different buckets of CPA
And
money.
this is the one where the students are gonna participate in some of this as well, which is.
Yes,
good.
correct.
Great. Okay.
And they're expecting matching funds through grants and donations.
Oh, yes, it's the green light. Okay,
Yeah.
Yep. All right, so do we have a
So
motion?
is this going to be to improve the trails, or are they going to be, is this funding the students to go visit or to work, or they have projects?
It is
No.
trail
There
improvement.
are no trails.
They're gonna be
I
making the
understand.
trails. See the.
Not the
tiny-
community
Yeah.
trail.
I know Mike Dempsey spoke to us about
This
this.
is
There's
like
a zillion,
walking
the trails are all
trails
there, there's a
through the
zillion
woods.
trails in there.
I think they're gonna be enhancing them and
Yes,
marking
the
them
4th
and-
graders do projects and do the markers, and this is to assist in things that they're doing for these trails.
But we're not paying the fourth graders, we're actually buying
It's
their supplies.
materials. And
Right, we asked that
Right,
question.
I understand, I just wonder what they're gonna be, what enhancements they're doing, the trails are there,
So-
they've been going, I'm just curious, I would like to see
So what he said
they
is
do.
the three pilot projects will be the Meadow Pond Reservation, the Center Street Greenway, focusing on forest management, and the quarry restoration and historic site markers. So they're gonna be enhancing all conservation and open space properties throughout the town.
Oh, okay, so they're not just next door to Bagnell,
Correct.
they're gonna move around,
Correct, they're gonna do all
Oh,
around the
okay.
town.
okay. Wait to see. Do we have a motion for this favorable action? Yes, no?
I make a motion, we take favorable action on Article 18.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, a motion and a second, any more discussion? We're good, all in favor of Article 17, say aye, okay.
Article 18 is for $155,000 for a new playground at the Pines.
I have to ask, is that what a new playground now costs, $155,000? That's reasonable?
It's pretty much what it costs, because everything is individual, you buy all the pieces individually.
So we're not building a playground that's extravagant, we're building a functional, handicapped accessible.
I don't know about the hand, that's my
No.
objection right now.
So
Okay,
they
okay.
are still waiting on prices for that. They're actually not sure if this will cover the whole
Well,
playground.
how long does it take to get a price? I know who the vendor is.
I asked the question of Mike Dempsey last week, that
Well,
was his
then
answer.
We can't, I won't recommend
He said they increased
supporting
it.
this.
They increased it from what was recommended.
Yeah, cause they were gonna do some labor on their own, but in order to stay within warrants, you're not in trouble, they jacked it up 10,000. I don't see any, first of all, they were supposed to update this and they didn't. But having said that, I don't see anything in there that, see, when it's handicapped accessible, it has to have space between all the things, it has to have a hard surface. So if someone can't walk, or let's say someone's blind, okay? They have to have a surface sturdy enough to get into each area.
Does this have to be handicapped
If
accessible?
it, yeah,
or
cause
is-
Town of Merrimack put one in last year,
Right, we spoke about this last
and they
meeting.
took it out. Because they couldn't come up with the money to make it ADA accessible,
So if the town
And there was
puts
a-
in a playground, it has to be handicapped
yes, by
accessible.
law,
So then this does not meet the requirement.
I don't
By
think so.
law and by perhaps
This is just,
desire
as you know,
also
I'm an
of this-
advocate for this, so.
Right,
I'm for the project. I don't wanna see it put in because I will file a complaint.
Okay,
So
If it's
you can
not-
either do it now,
Well, what I will say though is, as you know, the CPA has the reserve fund that they can transfer throughout the year.
you know,
I mean, that would be the fallback if this, I mean, we could certainly scale it down to meet the 155, but if it comes in 10 or 20,000 more than that, you guys can meet and authorize to take it out of the reserve fund. However
it's
you
not a
wanna handle it.
cost issue with me, it's a construction issue. I don't, if it costs 200,000, build it, okay? The money is there. Mine is to be assured that, see, this is one of the problems with a project that runs, 155,000. We don't have people that are qualified to run a project of that size.
well, it says the finance director is gonna be in charge.
She's not qualified to run that project. okay?
Oh,
Well, I don't know what it takes to build a playground. I don't know anything about that.
You know,
So-
I think,
or
I think we
finance.
need projects that, exceed a certain amount, make sure that it has professional
an
integrity.
expert.
Yes.
Hang on a minute. Is it possible that at the town meeting that we could put forth an amendment to this, including ADA,
Yes, we could.
and why don't we suggest that?
You could amend the article to require it to be fully ADA
Exactly.
compliant, yes.
Well, it has to be ADA.
Well, we understand that, but
Well,
it's gotta be said in
you
the
say that,
article.
but we put a playground in a Washington
With-
Park that
well,
is,
if you wanna go there,
We're
okay,
not,
it's,
right?
well, that's not legal.
I know, but I'm just saying, so in the past, we have
So
not done the same.
we're not
And
gonna
have
have
gotten
to.
away with it.
That's what I'm saying, yes, so I think if you don't put the language in, then,
I mean, I had a conversation with Sam about this, so.
What are you saying?
I think we should put the language in to
Okay.
make it,
Yes, so do I.
compliant, so that anybody, whether they're in a
I'm
wheelchair or
for
walking
having the
or
language put in at town meeting.
can use the playground.
Okay.
That's our biggest recreation facility right now. It is the one that
Yeah.
Why
most
don't
people
we
see.
approve it a contingent on an amendment, which hopefully we can write?
Okay, so we need to add an amendment to it.
Well, we could put it right in here.
Where, how would you?
I could put it right underneath it. Finance board recommends favorable action
Provided
provided, or
ADA.
recommends the following amendment.
Right.
And you
Okay.
we could just list the exact same article, but add a phrase, made available for the purchase and installation of a new fully ADA compliant playground at the Pines
Right,
Recreation.
Yes,
Exactly.
okay, new.
So if that's what you'd like, I can
That's
put it
right.
right in here as your recommendation.
So, the way you say it, a new,
Per the architecture board, whatever the regulation is, 511.
oh, he's got.
Well,
the
that I
specific-
don't know.
I don't know.
The architecture review board, is that who does it?
Yeah, they're the
You
ones
look
that can
that
tell you can't have it anymore.
The architectural review board.
specific to
And where-
Massachusetts?
where are
What
they?
did,
State.
The
Merrimack
state?
do when they took their playground out? Are they going to put it back in?
They're
and
trying,
make
they're
it-
trying to raise money.
Okay, so they are going to make
They-
it ADA compliant then?
Yeah, they just, when they went before the architecture board, the architecture board was not happy with, they said they could do it in 3 years, but there was no details provided with
I
that,
see.
okay? So they're off trying to raise that money, but upon legal advice from town council in Merrimack, the selectmen decided to take them out, not take a chance that, you know, if something should, by
Happen.
some act
Right.
of something, they
Right.
didn't wanna feel liable, but yeah, they had to store the equipment.
Right,
So I don't wanna see that happen here. So-
right, and I would think going forward, they should address this issue at any other town playground, that make sure that we are being consistent in
boy.
our, yeah.
You're opening the can of worms there.
Well, you have to open the can
Well,
of worms
going
sometimes.
forward,
Going forward, you have
going
to open the can
forward,
of worms.
but not to go back and,
Oh, okay.
you're not
That's
suggesting that we
different.
take apart Washington Park. You're
I'm not,
suggesting that
I'm
we,
suggesting that you go forward and make it ADA compliant at some point, yes, you make some kind of a plan to do that, because if you're gonna do it on one side of town, you,
Well,
You
this
better
one
be
here is
sure.
a central playground.
this is very
The-
central, but it-
Washington Park's more neighborhood, it's not as accessible as the Pines.
Washington Park is kind of to give, also I feel it's to give the siblings
I
just
don't think
something
you,
to do, keep them busy when
Right,
they're spending so
but
much
I
time
also
at that
think it
field.
should be handicapped accessible for siblings that are handicapped. So, I mean, I don't think, we're talking the scope of this playground at Washington Park.
Yeah, I
Be
only,
much smaller, but I think you still wanna think about what would it take to make this playground accessible to any child that has a disability or a handicap, yeah, why not?
I think we can start with this one.
No, I agree.
And-
Start
and,
here.
You know,
Just when putting in a new one, do it correctly.
Right,
well, I think so, I mean, it
right,
goes without saying.
So here's what I've written, if this is what you'd like your new motion, or your amendment to be.
yeah,
I'm just gonna jump ahead.
Yeah.
For the purchase and installation of a new fully ADA compliant as per the architectural access board playground at the Pines recreational area. So if that is your
Wow,
amendment that you're,
that sounds good, I don't quite know what the access board, what is this board that we're referring
The
to?
state
There's
board.
state
Ah,
that
okay, they're the
regulate
board that
handicap
regulates
accessible,
Yes.
even
Okay.
down to like
Okay.
boat piers.
it
okay?
develops and enforces regulations designed to make public buildings accessible, functional, and safe for persons with disabilities.
Okay,
They don't act voluntarily, someone has to file a complaint.
okay,
And then upon that complaint, by law,
They
they
must
have
take
to,
action.
they have to
Right.
take action and investigate it.
okay, good, alright, so should
Fully
we,
ADA compliant as per the Architectural Access Board.
Yes.
so can I have a favorable motion as amended,
Yes, you can.
and a
I make a
second,
motion, favorable action as amended
and a
to
second,
Article 18.
and a second on that? And with
I second that.
Okay, all right.
I'll let Jim second that.
Okay, and then all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous.
Let me just,
Okay, thank you, that's good words, Jim.
Nice job, Jim.
They like that. What
I'm
is
sorry,
19? Okay, this one,
Article 19, yes. So Article 19 is, I'll tell you right now, the selectmen did not make a recommendation on this. They are torn on this. Actually, they weren't torn, they were all against it, but they decided to hear more information from Mike Dempsey. Article 19 is to see if the town will authorize by gift, purchase, or eminent domain 3.5 acres of land at 733 Salem Street rear. and allows to appropriate $20,000 for the acquisition of said parcels. The selectmen, the other evening, were originally going to strike anything that had to do with purchasing the land. Appropriating the sum of 20,000 and purchasing, they are fined if we're acquiring it by gift or eminent domain. But again, decided not to take action until they find out more from Mike Dempsey.
Well, eminent domain, who would pay the legal cost of eminent domain?
That's privately held by the Hulu builders. I don't know how you can take that by
Yeah,
eminent
I don't-
domain
I
for
don't either.
conservation purposes.
Well, if we vote this, it allows them to use eminent domain.
I
if they
say we
wish.
follow the selectmen's leadership and be neutral on this.
I'd agree. I'd also ask, can the town planner provide us information regarding, it says here, I thought it said somewhere in one of these descriptions that the planning board held that lot would not be built on, so it's gonna stay as open space, right?
It's an agreement, but it
Yes.
isn't contractual.
It was an
Well-
agreement to not build, I believe, 3 houses and only build 1, provided that VZ Park could acquire the land abutting it at 733
Well,
Rear Salem.
I'd like to know from the town planner, is this agreement a contract or not? Is it, cause I mean, they make it sound like it was put into some kind of a contract. I'd like to know what is the nature of this
When
agreement.
we went over this at CIC,
Yes,
the price of 20,000 was set because by some state law, we can't spend more than $20,000 for it. There's some pricing per acre. This is sort of an opening bid, like, will the owner of that sell it for $20,000? There is no agreement with the owner at that time. I don't know now,
I
unless
don't
Mike
believe
has.
so.
it says it in the article. I'd like to know what the town planner says. Doesn't the town planner participate in these agreements? Right?
That's not a town planner thing, is it?
Well, she goes to the planning board meeting.
Oh,
It
you
says-
wanna know
they-
if,
this
if,
She wants to know the planning board piece, the footnote that
Right,
identifies the planning board
footnote says there's something
discussion.
in a planning board
yeah,
decision.
Yeah, I'll
I'd like
ask
to
her.
know what that is. What is it? I'd like to see this
Yeah.
document, whatever it is.
I don't know anything about this, but I
Neither
don't
do I.
think it's had, it's had that the owner of that land can't build an additional house.
Right.
So, they agreed that, I don't know what they agreed to at the planning board, that
But it's
was
adjacent
actionable.
to wetlands, that's the problem. It contaminates from Johnson's Pond,
But
that's,
it's not going to be built upon, so why do we need to buy it?
All right, well,
That's what I'm trying to understand. I just like to understand why the words eminent domain are there and why we need to purchase this.
I think eminent domain is there just because that's how every article is written when the town is acquiring property, at least the methods that we can acquire property. I don't think there's any reason eminent domain is there. I don't think there's been
Okay.
any discussion of taking the property.
Okay,
It's
so-
just that's the legal language in acquiring property.
I mean, the way I understood it is if the owner says, no, I don't wanna sell it to you for 20,000, we won't buy it.
And we won't use eminent domain either.
I don't know about the eminent domain.
That's what I'm asking, because if we
And
vote
you'd
this,
have to have a real good reason to take something by eminent
I would
domain
think
other
so,
than you
but-
want.
well,
a
it would be
buffer area.
contested in court if it was only
Yeah.
20 grand and it's worth 50,000 or something like that.
Oh, it's worth at least that. Okay, I
Um,
think,
3.5 acres, you're right.
so are we gonna vote a recommendation or vote to table it till we get more information?
I would table it.
Okay, make the motion.
You know, I mean, by that time, if there's been no agreement with the builder, it should be probably removed from,
Okay,
at the
great.
town meeting,
But for now, should we make a motion to table it?
yes.
And we have a second?
I'll make the motion to table.
I need a second.
You need a second,
On the
second.
Okay, and there's no discussion, so all in favor of tabling it?
Aye.
So is it fair to list your
John, are you in
recommendation
favor of
that's,
tabling it? No? What do you?
I'm abstaining
He's
because I'm
abstaining.
confused.
Well, I am too, but I think tabling it for now is okay.
so is it fair to list that the recommendation will be made at town meeting by the finance
Yes.
board?
Yes, and
That's
we
the
would, I would
selectmen's.
like to see if there's information from the town planner
Yep.
regarding whatever agreement was reached.
I just sent her an email, so when I hear back from that, I'll
See,
forward it off
when
to
I
you.
see the property and I see the location and I can see what the issue is, then I can vote on it.
Okay,
It's just
so
so
you're gonna do a
confusing.
site walk, yep, it's right up there, right, it's pretty obvious where it is, right?
Okay, Article 20 is their annual appropriation to, appropriate into the different, I'll call them buckets of community preservation.
Good.
Excuse
Okay.
me, do you want to take a break and have a little walk for a
No,
minute?
I'm okay right now, thank you. I appreciate
Can you
that.
tell us if you do?
I'll just stand up if I need to.
Okay.
I'm moving around.
Can we have a motion on this? This is a, can I have a motion on this, cause it's a standard article we do every year.
What's that number, 20?
Yes,
Yes, we're putting the
Well, I have
CPA
a-
funds into the different buckets, you have to put them there, it's by law.
Right, and so the other bucket that you were referring to tonight,
the
the
reserve.
reserves.
Yep.
Yeah,
So when is that funded? I guess I wasn't.
It's their committee administrative expenses. So
That's
that's what
the-
it's called, but they can use that. They've used that in the past when some articles have run over. If something comes up, a legal question during the year, they've used that, their administrative line to fund those types of things.
I'll make a motion, favorable action.
Second.
Third.
I
Third.
yield to you, John.
alright, any
Third
more
it.
discussion? All in favor of Article 20?
Aye.
Okay, so unanimous.
Article 21 is to transfer $44,408 from fiscal 2018 free cash to fund the capital improvement plan, which is one item, the replacement of a police cruiser.
Which we do this every year, right?
I know.
We do. This
And-
year, we're taking it from free cash.
Right, but we replace the cruiser, and the cruiser that's being replaced goes to,
So the new cruiser, this one would go to the chief
Chief.
for a year,
right,
and then it drops down into the line.
okay, but what about the cruiser we're replacing, what did we
We
do?
turn it in, so it's part of the trade-in for this.
Oh, and that's how we get the $44,000.
Correct.
Okay,
So the oldest vehicle will be traded in.
okay. And how many vehicles will we have total?
Four,
We
isn't
ha-
it?
no, we have more there because they have like 3 vehicles that are
Not
2008s.
counting the weird ones, the
Yeah.
regular cruisers.
I think
Four,
six.
No,
Well,
5
that's-
plus the chief, I think, 6 in
six.
total.
Six
Six.
cruisers.
Yeah.
We have a
Yes.
rotation of
Yeah.
6 cruisers, okay.
I believe it's 6, yes. Well, a rotation would be 5. The chief's is
He
sort of not
keeps-
in the rotation, but
Okay. 5 cruisers.
Well, it is actually, because after a year,
after a year it is. But for that first year, it's not
Okay.
being used other than for him.
And the fact that he, well, I answered that.
It's not idling. It's not having the same wear and tear as the rest of them for that first year.
And the fact that he wants to hire an additional officer has no bearing on any of that because they all share. in
Because
it.
the reserves are
And he's
using
gonna
those
be
cruisers.
And he's gonna use
reserves
fewer
anyway.
reserves,
That's
the,
right.
the new officer.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so a motion on Article 21, please,
I make a motion approving that article.
favorable
Favorable
action.
action.
Favourable action.
I second that.
Okay, any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. All right.
Article 22 is the school project.
Oh,
The
God.
Oh,
approved,
it's actually not that long.
the appropriation and borrowing
Oh,
to
nothing.
construct a new middle high school. If you look in the motion to be made, the amount of the authorization is $146,332,328.
We-
I will actually find out today. They were meeting with MSBA at our school committee meeting tomorrow night. We will find out the final, if MSBA has approved of this number or has a different number for us.
Will we have you able to tell the average person's taxes for this, increase in their taxes?
I
Will-
haven't been involved in this at all. It's all being done at the school department.
The presentation.
Sorry?
$740
Yeah.
is,
Right, that's
I
the new one with
recall
the
what-
adjusted.
Right.
If you
would
go
be the
on
average
the,
increase to
the
the average.
website, it'll show you some estimated costs by town.
Right. They have a lot of.
Right,
It's
so
a
it
yes
is,
and
it's
no.
about 740 for the average, 400.
No, less than that, 350, 375.
I do have,
thought
can we
we
make a
were
motion on this so we can have a legitimate, just make a favorable motion and second it, and then we can have discussion?
Yeah, I make a motion, I make motion to take out of the 22 as favorable action.
And do we have a second?
second.
Second, okay. I had a question about, because our percentage changes each year, and because they're also looking at redoing the foundation arrangement between the allocations.
Yep.
How will that affect our override and our ability to pay our share of this?
Because that's exactly, we're not borrowing it, so Pentucket's borrowing the money and then they allocate it out on an annual basis as part of our budget.
So we add the override to our tax rate each
The
year?
debt exclusion, yes.
The debt
We would get I would get a debt schedule,
Okay.
And then they would tell us what our appropriation is, and then we
For
apply
that
that to
year.
the tax rate.
So then each year
Will change.
presumably you could hopefully not by much, hopefully it would go down sometimes, but we would update voters as needed about changes
I
in.
mean, I'm gonna guess the allocation's tied to student head count in each town.
Well, it's also tied to that foundation budget calculation, which they've been reporting that they're working on revising that a little bit. And I'm not quite sure, between our three towns, I don't know that it will make a big difference, to how we're divided. I mean, have you heard anything
What's
about
a
it?
foundation?
That's how they do the first allocation of the budget. It's like, the state calculates this percentage based on our wealth, based on some other factors, and the school budget is allocated on that, and then after we've met our foundation budget, then it's allocated on a per student basis, the next round.
Now, MSBA puts money in the pot here. How much are they putting in?
What's
So-
that percent?
It's a net percentage, so the reimbursement rate, because when you're looking at a project of this size, there's a lot of things that are not reimbursable.
That's what I understand.
Correct. So the net reimbursement is about 42%. In gross, it's about 52 to 56%. But it's much less than that when you take off the non-reimbursable costs.
Mhm.
So it's 42%. Now, let's, when we looked at that earlier, we were looking at $900 on the tax rate.
Correct, because the amount was much higher. We were at 165 million, and now we're down to 140.
How did it come down?
Because we've made changes and we.
What changes were made?
Well, we've been meeting every.
I know, I'm just
Oh,
asking,
well,
what,
there's a lot of changes that have been made. We've cut things, we've removed things, we've reduced. Then we hired a appraiser to review the architect's work to actually get a true cost number. So we're not just
Okay.
relying on an architect's price.
okay.
And this was the true cost that came in as the 146.
Now, okay, this 146, I'm just trying to get my head around it. Now, is there any chance that this figure will be changed? In other words, we have now the best idea that it will be, but there might be some inflationary costs. I know there's always a contingency in there for such a thing. There's no chance that it will be no more than that figure. That's the bottom line, right here.
No. I would say after tomorrow, we'll know what the true number is. MSBA is voting today what the number is for us. They have to
Oh,
approve the project cost.
so we don't
So
know.
I will find out tomorrow night at the school building meeting if this is the true number or if MSBA has a different number for us.
Okay.
If they have a different number, we will need to amend that on town meeting floor to put the new number in.
That's what I was getting at.
Okay.
Okay, thank
Um,
you.
So, and just so you know, so Groveland, the average assessed home is 425,000, and it is a $745 tax impact per year at the current 30-year fixed rate of 2.75.
When would they start this project?
So, my guess is they would borrow. So, if it passes here, we'll start. They will probably make one borrowing this year, but then the payment wouldn't be due until next year. So, it probably would not hit until the fiscal January 2021 tax bill.
So it's just possible that the interest rate could have increased by the time that occurs.
It could, but if we borrowed, so we borrowed this year, but then your payments are due a year later. So,
Right,
so once we borrow, we're locked into the
Yeah.
rate. So yes, it could be 1%, it could be 3%, 4% by the time we
it's
actually.
2.75.
2.75, and I think that's a good number right now.
Okay,
If you're not aware, so the way the school project worked is you don't borrow all 146 million or 93 million, whatever the group portion is. You borrow it as you go along. So we'll borrow it in phases as we need it, and that's why you borrow only what you need. So if the project comes in, you don't need a contingency. It comes in
Right.
$5 million. You're not borrowing an extra $5 million that
I
you're now
hear you.
stuck with.
I hear
We're
you.
borrowing the true cost as we go along.
As we go along, the interest rates might be going up though.
Correct. Or they might
Okay.
go down.
Yeah, we
Yep,
understand.
yep. So it will incrementally go on,
Okay,
hit the tax bills over the next few years if it passes,
okay,
as the borrowings are made and as the payments are coming due.
I hear you.
Okay.
Denise, turn it off? I'm gonna go set up.
Um,
No, don't turn
No,
it off
can you
now.
just turn the camera away from me for a moment? I don't know what button shuts it off.
Oh, this one.
Okay.
Just hit that and then I'll come take care of it.
Okay.
Hit the button. We got this.
it's a lot of power.
Is it on everybody? What do we, is it just on John?
It's just on me.
It's all
Yeah,
about you,
right.
It's the
John.
most important man in the room, you know.
Of course. Center the whole camera spot on John.
Humility is my strength.
You got that? Hold
He has the accent, so he sounds smarter than all of us.
Shut it off and I'll come back.
Just go
Okay,
with
thank
that.
Let me see what's happening in the other room.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Oh, now I could see the.
I
answer.
saw you
But
shudder
before
there,
that, you
Ruthie.
looked
I saw you
fantastic.
shudder. when I saw
Okay,
you.
let's go.
Most
Okay, so Article 22. What are your
Okay.
thoughts?
Can we make an, do you wanna make a vote on this as it
Yes.
stands? And we can always update our vote.
Making a motion, we take favorable action on the new high school.
We already motioned and seconded
Oh,
so we could
okay.
have the discussion,
Oh, never
so
mind,
now we're
sorry,
voting.
we're behind. All in favor?
No?
You're not in favor?
Are you not in favor
Nope,
or are you
I am
abstaining?
not in favor.
What?
Okay, so,
It's
3
fine.
yes, 1 no.
Three.
That's
We
fine.
don't need to debate it.
Article 23 is our standard $35,000 from the light department.
And my only point is I think that should have been increasing.
I agree, and I encourage the board on Monday night to reach out to the light commissioners and request a meeting. Request a
Instead of-
meeting and discuss that amount hasn't changed.
Well, we should
and
have an agreement. If it's a payment in lieu of taxes, there should be an agreement in place,
It's not a pilot, though, it's really,
but it should be,
well,
yes.
The only thing that came to my mind is that if they know ahead of time that they're going to give us 35,000, as they say they always do, that means that they are overcharging us 35,000 every year,
mhm.
which seems to me not right.
Well, I don't think it's overcharging, it's built into their budget, their 35,000.
It's what?
It's built into their budget that they set their rates on.
But
Yes,
John,
what I'm saying is if they took it out, the rate would go down. And it would change, we wouldn't be spending. I mean, I wouldn't mind if it was, say, 10,000, but 35,000 seems excessive.
Well, but technically, they're required to pay for all indirect costs that the town is supplementing,
yes.
and they're not. They're
They're
supposed to
not.
be paying a portion of my salary, the town accountant's salary, the assistant treasurer collector's
part
Snow
of
salary.
their
plowing,
cost
trash
of doing
remover, et
business.
cetera,
Correct,
et
any
cetera, et cetera.
trash removal, any services that the town's general fund provides, they are supposed to be paying us.
And they are.
They do not, they do this instead of it, they give
Where
us a
is it? Oh,
flat,
there it is.
Well, I
35,000.
think we're getting,
You're
I
on
think
camera.
we're getting hosed, because I think if you calculated it,
I
it
agree.
would come in at a larger figure.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Then
And
why
it
don't we
should-
do that and
I
not
just
take the
said,
35?
We need-
I encourage the board to meet with it, because it should, and it should
We should
increase
have an
every year
agreement.
as salaries increase.
Right.
That cost, that payment should increase appropriately.
Absolutely.
I've encouraged the Board of Selectmen to request a meeting and have that discussion.
Well, I think we should not vote favorable action on this
Then
one.
our budget will be a $35,000
No,
deficit.
we need to take the money, John, we need to take the money.
We need to take the money now, because we will be in a deficit, we will not
We
have a
need to
balanced
ex-
budget without this
Right.
35,000.
Turning this money down doesn't change anything, there's no agreement in place. The point is that
Right.
there should be a payment in lieu of taxes agreement in place that stipulates how much they're paying and why and how much it goes up each year.
Correct, and that can be done over the course of the next year, if the selectmen wanna bring them in and have that
Are they
discussion.
prepared to do that?
I've asked them the other night, I don't know.
If
Look,
elected, I'll do it.
It
But
could-
as I said,
Good girl!
Thank you. I just lost the electric department votes.
The chairperson needs to step aside.
but as I said, if we don't vote this, we are in a $35,000 deficit.
No, we
for
want
fiscal
the
20.
35.
We want the
I
35.
see, this is, what a phony deal here. We can't even express ourselves in
Well,
essence, because
my-
we're tied in with this thing.
When I used to work for electric utilities, and I worked for some municipal electric companies in Vermont, so yes, they do payments in lieu of taxes. But there usually is an agreement in place that stipulates how much and how it increases over time.
Right, and in my experience, it's the same. I would say the same holds true for the water and sewer departments.
Yeah.
It should be any cost that the general fund is supplementing an
Absolutely.
enterprise fund should have a calculation. And it really does, it comes down to, the water and sewer department would include the electricity in this building, heat, water,
Right.
use of the copy machine. I mean, all those costs should be factored into a
Absolutely.
payment that they're getting, or we're getting from them. The light department, it's more salaries, you know, the reconciliations, we do the payroll, the bills, the insurance, and then trash pickup, anything the highway department may do for them,
Right,
things like that.
yeah.
They give us this in lieu of
It seems to me that
calculating
you
that.
need to present this case, if I may be so bold,
I
you-
have,
with all the numbers, showing them how we're getting hosed. It's as simple as that. And if you show them that, they
I think
might,
it's up to the two elected boards to have that discussion, not
It
mine.
is.
I've presented it, I've spoken to the light department manager, it's above my pay grade, we have two elected boards. It should be up to them to have that conversation. If they meet and say, present some numbers, but I'm not gonna present the numbers if there's not gonna be anything to go with it, if no one's gonna take the
Right.
momentum and run with it.
Right, I agree.
well,
and no
the two
one's-
boards are us and them.
No.
Selectmen
Oh,
and the
the-
electric light.
Oh,
commission.
the
Electric
electric.
board.
light.
They have their own
They're
board.
right,
They're an
they
elected
report to them.
Yeah,
Can I quickly mention, while we're talking about the electric board, that last week, we had a large truck pull into our street and the wires were too low. And the truck
Oh,
got caught in the wires and took down 2 telephone poles. It was moments before the bus stop.
Whoa,
But one telephone pole snapped in half and landed in the middle of the street.
Oh my god.
Wow.
And the other one laid down. The truck was tangled up with all the wires. 2 men inside the truck,
Scared to
scared
death.
to death to move.
right.
It all, so, because the wires, they were very
How tall was the truck?
standard,
Oh, wow.
13-foot truck. And he said the wire was supposed to be 14 feet. They were a standard 13-foot truck. And it was a day long, you know,
Of course. Fix them
Where
up.
do you live, Ruthie?
off of Uptack Road, Berrywood Lane.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that just concerned me also. Where else is this danger
where else are the
presenting
lines
itself?
too low? Yeah.
It's kind of a liability, and I wonder if there is any sort of procedure for the electric board to monitor that.
I've got another problem by my house. I've got a branch over the electric cable, you know, and I've told them about it, and I said,
Oh,
you
they
know,
take
that
those
needs to
down
be
all the
cut
time.
down.
They take those down all the time.
I've asked them to cut it down, and they
Oh, you
look
need
at
to
it and
ask
they
them
won't do it.
nicely. You need to ask them
all
nicely.
right.
I've already
We
done
need to
that.
have Ruth ask.
I'll ask them.
Who's us?
Let's move on here.
Yeah,
Okay,
I know.
so
I just
can-
wanted to mention that while I
Do we have a
was-
motion
'cause I
on
thought that
Article
was-
23
Well taken.
at this point? Do we have a motion?
We don't have a motion. I'll make a motion.
Can I have a second on that, please?
I'll second it.
Okay, any more discussion?
No,
All right, all in favor on Article 23? Say aye.
aye.
John, are you in favor on this one, or are you
I am abstaining because
abstaining?
I
3,
really think
okay.
this is wrong, what's
Okay.
going on.
Okay.
So there.
All
Okay,
right.
how about Article 24?
So Articles 24 and 25 are the
Standard.
conservation transfers. So
Right.
Article 24 is to take 13,300
Right.
from their fees to their part-time salary account. Article 25 is to take $1,670 from their fees to their expense line.
Motion favorable.
On both of them, right?
Both of
Do I
them.
have a second for that, for both
Second
articles?
it.
24 and 25 are now motioned and seconded. Any more discussion on these? These are standard transfers. Questions? Anybody? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the thumb is up, it's unanimous.
Article 26 is to set the spending limits of the revolving accounts. We've increased all of them. Again, it's just the spending limit. If we don't collect the money, you can't spend it. It just gives us authorization to spend it should we need it and have the funds.
Okay. And they'll deliver reports?
The reports are in your appendix B.
Oh, they are?
I print them in the
Are
book
they
now.
already there?
Yes.
Oh, wait a minute, I wanna see
The
this.
Bagnell Summer Program, is it likely to have 250,000?
They have been spending more and more, and then we've been using some money from the summer program to do work at the Bagnell School. So yes, maybe not quite 250. I think this year or last year we were around 215. But again, it just gives us the opportunity if we have
Right.
the money.
Right.
Revolving funds. So the Bagnell when these funds end the fiscal year, they just wash out, right, whatever's in there or not?
No, revolving funds carry over
Oh,
from
they
year to
do
year.
carry,
So
okay.
the summer program's funny because they start collecting their money in February,
Oh, yes.
and then they don't start spending it until after July, so,
Okay.
so by now, they've already collected money for the summer program
Right.
this year.
Okay,
It's very popular,
Yes.
because it's one of the best programs around,
Oh,
which is rarely cheap.
so the Pines Maintenance Revolving Fund has nothing in it though?
We just created it in November,
Oh,
December, at the special town meeting.
Okay, but how come, if you created it in December, how come there's no money in it? Because they haven't taken in any money?
Because it's the winter, we haven't taken any maintenance money for the
Okay.
pines.
So, where does the money come from that you take in?
So right now, it's the Groveland Day, money, so they're raising money to fund Groveland Day. We are selling signs and advertisements down there, and anything else, if they set fees on field usage, light usage, things like that, it would go into that account.
Oh, it would all go into this?
Mhm.
So the boat ramp doesn't go in, but every other endeavor down there, what about the leagues, do they,
Right now, they pay nothing, so they pay, some of them pay to do some field work directly. We just had the baseball fields redone, and they paid for that themselves. Instead of having us pay for it or them paying us a fee, they took care of reclaying and redoing the baselines. I'd like to get in, and I've talked to the board about actually getting into setting up fees and rentals for it, so that we actually have a continuous income, and then we're spending it on the maintenance of the location, but
okay,
we're not at that point
we're
yet.
not, so everybody uses the fields for free right now, there's no
Correct.
fees involved?
Correct.
Okay,
And that goes for lights, water, they're all just
Oh.
using everything without paying us anything.
This is, what item is this now, Pines maintenance?
26, the Pines maintenance.
yeah, the Pines so that would, that
Pines
revol-
maintenance, that's-
revolving fund, that would be to maintain supposedly that bathroom when it ever gets done, right?
Everything down there would maintain the irrigation systems.
So we
the-
would need, yeah, we would need to have
50,000
some money.
seems a bit low.
It does, but we don't really know because we haven't spent any money this year, so.
Well, they don't have any money, John, look at the appendix, it's zero.
So
I
the-
understand that.
The nice thing is
So you can say 50, but you can't get the 50 with 0.
Right, exactly.
But the nice thing is the law changed 2 years ago that if we have a spectacular first, re-Groveland Day planned, and it's gonna be $80,000 on that alone, they have the money, the selectmen can actually override this limit.
Oh, okay,
Um,
fine.
so I didn't wanna just set them ridiculously
No,
high
I
up front.
understand, no, that makes sense.
So, but the
Okay.
selectmen have the authority to
Okay.
increase that spending limit, where
Okay.
in the past you did
All
not,
right.
you needed town meeting approval.
Do we have a motion on Article 26 yet?
I'll make the motion, we do not have one yet.
Second,
And it's seconded, move favorable, seconded. Any more
Aye.
discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Yep, thanks.
Article 27 is a citizen's petition to raise, appropriate, or transfer the sum of $1,700 to replace the library sign. The selectmen voted unfavorable action on this.
Because,
They feel that the library trustees should be using the money in their trust funds instead of town money to replace the sign.
have they
The-
got money in the trust funds to do it?
Yes.
But the library, I would take it, feels that the town should pay for its sign. Is that the deal? This is the disagreement that's
Correct.
going on.
it's,
It's like a fight over $1,700.
Yes, exactly.
I guess I don't feel strongly one way or the other. Personally, I think, the town should take care of signage just so we can be more standardized about it. And as long as we're not getting involved in other things that the library trust fund should pay for. They may have originally paid for the library sign, but probably because the town had no money to pay for any signs.
I mean, I guess where I'm going with it, I'm not counting where the money comes from, because to me,
Yeah.
it's all town money, it's in
Yeah.
different places.
Yes,
Do we need a sign or don't we?
the library?
So I will just say,
I mean, it's all I need to know is, do we need a sign?
Library.
so my only
There.
point is there is no town hall sign. The digital bulletin board says 183, 185 Main Street Municipal Offices. Why there's a separate library sign, I don't know.
But there's a police department sign, right?
It's a public safety sign for the
Public
two.
safety sign, okay, so we know that's a public safety building.
And then there's the municipal complex sign, which has the two addresses on it. So there is not a town hall sign out there.
Is there room to add a little thing below it that points to the library or something that we could have done for like 500?
Well, onto the existing signage, there is a sign, it's just old,
Well,
right?
the sign has now fallen apart,
It's
actually.
fallen
It's on the
Um,
ground right now.
Someone has pointed out that when you drive down the street, you can see the library right from Main Street. I don't know.
It seems to me it's a territory fight, and I don't like to see that.
Wait, can we abstain as a board? Just say we're neutral.
You'd have to give a recommendation because it's financial, so we have to authorize taking the money from somewhere in order to fund this.
It-
Because their article, which we cannot change because it's a citizen's petition, says raise, appropriate, or transfer. They need to decide whether we're raising, appropriating, or
Right, you
transferring.
can't do both,
And we need to have available funds if they're looking to appropriate or transfer.
right.
So you
There's
have
enough
to weigh in on it.
signatures.
You just,
On
you
this
raise and
citizen.
appro, the word should be raise and appropriate. It should not say transfer, there's nothing, yeah.
Right, unless they came in and said we wanna transfer from this line to this line, but they didn't provide any of them. So, you're authorizing the use of available funds, if you will, to cover that $1,700.
Well, I don't wanna spend any more time on this, it seems rather
I know, it
pathetic.
seems,
Petty as
it
hell.
does, it seems like they have the funds for it, it doesn't seem like there's a sign that, it seems clear that there's a library there. I don't know who's not benefiting from the library.
How about if we ask the chairman to come in and see us right before town meeting?
Who's,
The library chairman.
The library director,
No, not the director,
the chairman of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the
Lee
board
Thomas?
of
Yeah, Lee
trustees.
Thomas, ask him to stop in and tell us why this is so critical that it has to come out of town funds. What, it seems, you're right, I think this is not really even about the money. It's like a little
Turf war.
turf war, and I just feel like, wow, we really need to stop doing
Well,
this
that's
in
just
town.
unfavorable action and then have him in and we can change it. But
Right,
we
but
vote
I think we
unfavorable
should have
action at
him
this
in.
juncture.
Unless.
Right, you could do that if you
Okay.
wish.
Because when they came in to discuss
We
the
didn't discuss it.
budget, it wasn't
They
in
didn't tell
here
us.
yet, and it didn't even come up as a
Right.
discussion item.
We
for
had a
the
very happy,
omnibus.
happy discussion on the budget, it was great.
And they all got their, the employees were taken care of, and the
Right.
minimum wage came into effect, and the associated,
Right,
I mean, they're run by an elected board.
correct.
Where I stand in it, if they think they need a sign, this keep,
Yeah,
whether anyone agrees or disagrees,
right,
the library trustees and the library
think they
said
need a
they
sign.
want a sign.
yes, they do.
So then
So-
pay for it.
So the question is, where does the money come from?
Correct.
So I support having a new sign. I just don't understand, if they have the money, why didn't they use it?
Well, there
Okay.
might be some explanation.
Well, I
we
don't know.
I don't know,
Okay.
right.
We will vote in unfavorable action and can change our position once we've had an opportunity.
What are the
to
options?
hear the others.
I don't like, so what are the options? It's unfavorable,
You can make a report at town meeting, or you can make a recommendation
but,
at
I
town meeting.
mean,
Could table it until town meeting.
just like the
all
Yeah.
right,
the other one.
Okay.
Okay,
let's
fine.
table it till the town meeting.
Okay, make
Alright.
the motion. You
I
have to
make a motion to table Article 27 until the town meeting.
Give me a second on that.
Second,
And there's no discussion any longer, so all in favor of tabling it?
Aye.
Okay. And going forward, do we wanna invite just Lee to come in and speak to us?
Whatever.
Okay,
Whoever is important carries the weight.
well, this was filed by a citizen's petition, so I don't know who that citizen is.
I thought it wasn't this kinda driven though through the trustees or not? We don't know?
Well, whoever did the citizens petition put the library trustees and the library director in charge of the money, so,
Okay, so we can ask them. They must
I mean,
know
they
something.
listed them specifically
They
in the
must know
article
something
to
about it.
use the fund, so I would.
Okay,
Um,
and,
Article 28 is to take $50,000 from the overlay surplus account to fund the operating budget. In the past, that was up to about 125,000, we've decreased it, hopefully next year we won't need it at all, that's my goal. But we need this to balance our budget.
okay.
Plain and
motion?
simple.
Plain and simple.
Can we make a motion?
Sorry?
Plain and
Plain and simple, we need the money.
So can we make,
I'll make a motion favorable action.
favorable action?
To
Do I have
balance my number at the end.
To make it work. And do we have a second on Ruth's favorable action?
Second.
Okay. Any more discussion? Take the money and run. All in favor? Taking the money.
Article 28 is to take $85,000 from fiscal 2018 free cash to fund the town's operating budget. However, it really covers the cost of the OPEB appropriation.
Right,
Right.
right. Which is a good thing.
Yes.
So can we have a motion
I
on that?
will make a motion favorable action.
Can I have a second on that?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor of 29, say aye.
Now, this 85 is to continue with money to make sure the budget is balanced, is that
No,
correct?
So, well, yes and no. So,
Pension
In-
liabilities.
Oh, pension
well,
liability.
technically it's balancing our budget because we put the pension liability in the budget,
Okay,
but it specifically funds the pension liability.
okay, fine.
Okay. And Article 30,
Article 30 takes 75,000 from free cash to make an appropriation to the stabilization fund.
Are we doing these as a group, or did we vote on 29?
I thought you voted.
I thought we did,
Oh, okay, sorry.
didn't we?
It's all
Did we
right.
say? I thought so.
It was you.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, it was
Okay.
unanimous. Yeah,
Okay, and so Article 30, I need a favorable action to put money in stabilization.
I will
Move it,
make
and a
motion
second?
favorable.
I second it.
Okay, and this is a good thing, anybody have any concerns about it? All in favor?
Aye.
31 is 50,000 from free cash to the capital stabilization fund.
Yes. How much will they have in it after we put this money
And when do we
in?
start to use it?
No, we're saving still.
But we haven't had projects that we need debt service on.
Right.
So eventually, when we get back underway with the capital improvement committee and we actually start having capital plans.
And we actually have a capital plan that we can actually fund.
Right, we
Let's
just
make
got back the building assessment, so once we get that data, Consolidated actually tells us for the 5 buildings when we need to replace certain infrastructure. So
Oh.
we'll start building that into a true capital plan.
Oh, okay.
So then we can start using that money.
Okay, so can we have a favorable action on saving this money
I
for
will
future use?
motion favorable.
And a
Action.
second?
Yeah, second.
Yes.
Second.
Okay, any more discussion?
No,
All in
move
favor? Say aye.
Aye.
32 is to take $60,000 from free cash to fund year 2 of our MS4 stormwater permit,
Fine.
which is a requirement under the
Such
EPA.
a shame.
I know.
I feel like we're just flushing it away. Just-
Clever.
And it's only year 2 of a 5-year program, so
Year 2 of 5, will it be 60?
it changes. I have a cost estimate. It's around the same
year,
amount.
Around the same each.
Yeah.
So it's a state mandated thing and they give us no money towards it.
Correct. It's an unfunded mandate.
Nice, okay. Can I have a recommendation on this?
But we did make
Could
a
take it up with
CPA
Trump,
article
yeah.
last year to
Yes, I'm
put
sure you'd be
it was
interested in
going to
that email.
satisfy the plan. There was a plan last year with a CPA article that was going to satisfy some of this, or contribute or complement or
Oh,
work
wait, Ruth
toward.
is talking about something, you're right. Say that one more time.
Last year, there was a CPA article that we passed, that part of that plan was going to
Right, there
feed
was
into
one.
this plan.
Oh, yes, the Johnson Pond management.
Yeah.
Yes.
The lily pad thing, right?
No,
No.
the
No,
other
it was
one.
another one.
The other
Oh.
one that controlled the levels of
Oh,
the
yes,
streams and
yeah.
rivers and,
Okay,
yes.
so, all right,
So
well,
that's
anyway,
not
do we
helpful
have,
to us yet.
do we have a
No.
favorable recommendation on this one?
There's not much choice, is there?
No, we don't have a
No.
choice. We have to- So make
Alright,
them,
I'll do favorable.
and s-
Second.
all right, call for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Article 33 is to take 25,000 from free cash and to put it into the personnel buyback account. What this does is when we have employees retiring, all the contracts require us to pay a percentage of their sick account, their
Yeah.
sick time on the books. We currently have, I think, 23,000 in the account. Our unfunded liability right now, if everyone were to retire, is $101,000. So it just goes in there and helps us as retirements come on that we have the money
Right.
available to
That
pay.
And
makes
are they
sense.
still allowed to carry over any of the sick time?
So you can carry over sick time. However, upon retirement, the contracts differ. So most contracts, it's 30% of up to 180 days.
Oh, okay.
Some of them now are 20%, some have a 150-day cap. We've removed it entirely from the highway contract and the water and sewer laborers. They can buy back their sick time on an annual basis once they have so many years.
Okay,
So on an annual basis, if you'll recall, when we get to the highway budget, they budget $2,200. Right now, only one person is
Right,
eligible for
okay.
that. I think the goal is to try and find a way to reduce that across the board as we start to renegotiate contracts,
okay,
just because
Because they get paid.
it's a benefit people are getting, and granted, they have to retire through here, but they're getting a benefit of,
But then they're getting
it's like a lump sum.
paid the rate, their retirement rate, not the rate of their pay at the time that they would have.
correct, not the rate when it's
Earned it.
accrued, when it's paid out, correct.
All right,
So this just helps us add money so that we're not short when people, because it is a benefit that's contractual.
Okay.
But it's controlled somewhat going
Yeah.
forward.
Forward.
The
We're hoping to control it more,
concept.
yes.
Okay. Can I have a favorable motion on this?
Favorable
Oh.
action.
And a second?
I'll
Aye.
second it.
2 seconds. Okay, all in favor of 33?
Alright.
Aye.
Okay.
Article 34 is to take 10,000 from free cash to purchase 2 new voting machines. As you'll recall, when the town clerk was here, she said that they would be no longer supported as of 2020, which turns out to be this budget year. She provided a quote at like $9,800 for the 2 machines.
Okay.
I'll move favorable. Motion favorable.
So are they falling apart?
No, they're no longer supported. I think they have like microchips and they have to send them out and get them recoded.
I see.
The company that maintains them will no longer maintain this version
I
after,
see.
after
So we don't
sometime
have
during
a,
next
we
year.
don't have a choice.
Do
We
we
don't
have
have a choice.
Do we have a second on that?
Second.
So,
Second, okay, and all in favor of Article 34?
Aye.
Good, okay.
Article 35 is to take 55,000 from free cash to fund capital upgrades
Yes.
at Bagnell School.
We saw that list.
Yes, so most of them will be,
These-
I've spoken with Greg Haddon. If this is approved at town meeting, I will meet with him and we'll go through. They'd like to have 3 additional classrooms abated. They're about 10,000 per classroom. And then we have some work to the handicap ramp needs to be done, and there's some other items. I am hoping to take 20,000 from the summer program, so that we can do a couple more upgrades to the school.
Oh, nice.
Just so that we can get in a habit of
Right.
providing some updates. and
very
updates
good. I've been yelling about that for a long time.
Well, then why don't you make that motion?
I'll make that motion in favor of Article 35.
Alrighty.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Article 36 and 37 are the
Water and sewer.
water and sewer.
We already did all that.
So the selectmen did not grant the superintendent's salary increase.
Now,
Oh, so then we can't vote it, cause they have to set it.
Correct, so they did approve the office manager's 3%, but not the superintendent, they gave him the 2% of everyone else.
What?
The- can I ask
Okay,
a question
okay,
for a
yeah,
moment
no, say
before
what.
I,
Sorry,
Okay.
John.
Do we need to
Go
have a
ahead.
motion to have discussion?
Go ahead and make a motion in second, yeah, go favorable. And second, then we can discuss.
I will move motion favorable.
I will second that.
Okay, now go.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any
Um,
discussion?
When I was on the board, there was this question of the state was encouraging all water and sewer commissions to have part of the statute, I think it's called K. Are you familiar with it? Yes, no?
Well, yeah, yes, but it depends where you're going with this statement.
No, the thing was, it seemed to imply that the Water and Sewer Commission was self-sufficient.
And they are, with the exception of personnel. Our
Oh, the
bylaws,
personnel is the
the
exception.
Board of Selectmen appoint all personnel and set salaries of all personnel.
Now,
With the exception of the Call Fire Department, they're appointed by the fire chief.
okay, that could be changed, but that could be changed, couldn't it?
To
Where-
be
where
honest,
that-
I don't know if that can be changed. We've
Okay.
had, town council has rendered several opinions on it over the years.
Okay, and he's decided
It's a
that
gray area.
okay, it is a gray area, I think.
Mm.
Okay, well, that answers my question.
Well,
Thank
the
you.
superintendent went before the Board of Selectmen, and they kinda went over this quite a bit.
And what is the argument not to give,
Well, one argument is it should be, his boss is making a recommendation of going over whatever, 2 or 2.5%, if he thought he deserved more. That it wasn't up to him to speak.
So
for his raise.
my statement at the time was, as I said to this group, my opinion is people went about it the wrong way. People putting in budget requests, looking for increased budgets without going before the Board of Selectmen asking for salary increases.
Right.
That should have happened in a formal request to meet with the board, discuss a salary, and then you put it in the budget. Not being done the other way and hoping that someone approves the money and not realize that, oh, I haven't gotten approval of the increase.
So,
So the board the other night discussed it, they felt that the water and sewer commissioners didn't come in, they didn't provide any documentation, any reason why he should be getting more than every other employee across the
And
board.
he was asking for 3% versus 2%.
Correct,
So
with no reason why.
it wasn't even, it was somewhat arbitrary, that 1% just because.
but
Right,
why,
and if you'll recall, when he was here, he made the statement that he felt it was unfair that we hired a new highway superintendent
right,
at 90,000.
why would you give the office manager 3% then?
They feel that she does an exemplary job.
Okay, so
It's to boost her retirement.
We don't have a merit system here.
We
I
do
mean,
not.
didn't the, what is the directive that was given to the departments about salary raises?
2%.
Okay,
then.
so other than adding hours or adding duties, it should be 2% to be fair.
It should be, yes.
Okay, so,
But they voted, they've granted it, so.
well, they've granted it, but what happens if town meeting votes a lower number, then the appropriation's not there? Good luck.
Or we can
Yeah.
still make our recommendation for the record.
Yes, we can, and the town meeting can then decide if they want to.
I think it's different
Arbitrarily
than
give away
the
more
Council
money.
on Aging director coming and saying, I feel there's a pay equity issue, and
Right.
having comps and having numbers and looking for 5% versus 2%. I think she's saying, I think I'm in the wrong category,
Correct.
and this is why. I think 1% is
Is arbitrary.
arbitrary.
It's not tied to additional hours or
and
duties.
it's not tied, and I wouldn't do it for, I wouldn't do it for either one of them.
Well, if the policy is 2%, it's
Then-
2%.
That's right,
And you have to,
then for
you
an
have to,
arbitrary exception.
you have to advocate and vote and debate on anything beyond that.
So,
Did we ever decide on the Council on Aging?
No,
Did
we
no,
Because
we're
we
gonna
haven't
vote
got
that.
to it
We're
yet.
gonna do that. We're gonna
No,
vote
but the
that.
selectmen approved it.
Right,
What, 5%?
right, but John, we're not there yet. We're on this one. Let's stick to the water
Okay,
sewer.
We'll get there.
And so the question on the board is, do you wanna go with the selectmen's recommendation, or do you wanna go with our own recommendation? We're just recommending, we don't set the salary, but we do recommend, and if town meeting follows our recommendation, the appropriation would not be 3%.
Or our recommendation is on the record.
But I will say, with the enterprise funds, they have the ability to adjust accordingly. They have additional funds in their line, so.
Well, I know they have the ability, but they can't, so they could pay along, and then they'd have to do a transfer at some point into
They don't, because their budget isn't, even though they vote on line items, with an enterprise fund, it's the total number of the
But the
enterprise
town
funds.
meeting, I believe, votes the lines. I think the town meeting sets
Yes,
those
but the
lines.
law does not follow the lines. The law follows an
Okay.
enterprise water number.
Okay, but.
So they could adjust accordingly if they so
I
choose.
feel like we need to be consistent, cause we had a long discussion about the health agent, we had a long discussion about the council on aging, and we looked for reasons to be, why people should request more salary money versus what is, the 2% is nothing, I get that, but also, on the other hand, the 2% rolls over every year whether your salary is
Exactly.
within bounds or not, and we have some salaries that may be getting above bounds, given what people really have to do in there. So, 2% is not nothing when you look at it over 20 years, rolling on
Yeah,
up.
right.
I just think my personal opinion, and it's nothing against the superintendent or office manager,
No,
but since I've been here in the 5 years, they are the only department that has received salary increases. Every other employee, contractual or non, has gotten 2% every year. They have
Right.
both received increases since then of above 2%.
Okay, so
So-
I think we should just, my personal opinion, you guys do what you want, but I think we should stick to our guns and recommend the 2% raise for
I
each.
agree.
The
I
water and
agree.
sewer commissioner will get up and argue that they're exemplary and need 3%, and they will probably all vote 3%. I don't think we should fight about it, I mean, but just we should
well, I just
stay
think it wouldn't,
consistent.
I think it would set the precedent for every single department to come in
Absolutely.
here.
I agree.
Right, I think we lose
And look for the
credibility
same thing.
on our recommendations that we want
I
to
agree.
be successful.
All right, I will make a motion
So we'll just adjust the amount and have 2% raises in both the
That's
salary
correct.
items. So whatever that number is, can we just make a motion?
44,594.08 for the office manager, and then I'll calculate.
44,594.08.
Yes, I'll calculate the total,
And then
Later.
we've got the next one, which is.
yes, I will do that as well.
Okay.
I'm gonna need it in both departments though.
No, I already moved
Cause that's the thing, when you,
favorable action so that we could have this discussion,
yeah, we did.
so,
We're discussing
Now
both
I'm-
water and sewer.
right, but
So,
I
I mean,
moved favorable,
Realize
and now I'm
this
moving
office manager is
as
earning.
amended.
Nearly 65 grand. It's nuts.
I will, in complete transparency, she did not request this. She came to see me, she did not know what was being put in.
I understand.
She was not expecting this,
No,
so
I understand.
I just wanna make the
No,
record, this
it's
is not her request.
It's not her.
No,
This was
I'm-
not her request.
No, but they've done this before, they've said they want their 3%, and we've recommended the 2% like we've been consistent, and the town meeting normally listens to the commissioners and gives it anyway, so
Not the last time.
we
Mhm.
want,
The last time town meeting supported the selectmen and finances recommendation and
oh,
did
they
not
did, I
grant.
forgot.
Yes, so,
But did water and sewer speak?
yes.
Oh.
If you recall, I think it was fiscal 17,
It's important
the
for you to
superintendent.
speak to this issue. when
I know, for
it comes up.
consistency and
Yeah,
fairness, yes.
exactly.
I think in fiscal 17, the superintendent received a 6% increase and he requested the same, maybe it was fiscal 16 and then fiscal 17, they requested an additional
Maybe we should
4.
know that.
I have the dates. Hoping for a 10% over 2 years. Town meeting voted down the second increase, even though it was strongly supported by the commissioners.
Okay,
So it has happened,
alright,
and I actually have it all in my notes.
okay, so we have, do we have the adjustment to the sewer budget as well?
So sewer would be 19,111.46.
And what would the superintendent be?
He's written on there. I printed it right in there.
28,617, right? No.
No, right under the finance board recommends column.
Oh, there it is.
That's
Oh,
because the
it.
selectmen voted that, so I had
Oh,
put it
so
there
you
so I
did
could
our
tell
two-
you.
So you did our 2% the way we like it.
Well, I
Thank
did
you.
it because that's what the selectmen voted, so I could tell you
Oh,
guys
I
tonight
get
what
it.
they voted on that.
I get it, I get it. I get what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay. So can we, make a motion for favorable action as amended?
I will second that.
Okay. And all in favor? Okay,
Aye.
good. Yeah, now we're on the big cheese.
Okay, so let me just favorable.
So we talked about all these when you were out, so we could probably just talk about the total, for the selectmen budget. If there's any questions, we can just vote it.
Do we have to go through every one of
Yes.
these?
Real quick, just the totals, John. We'll go fast. So the total for the selectmen would be
It
75,
should be quick
250.
because we.
We've already
I
talked
thought
about.
we'd done it.
We have, and now we're going through just to make our votes.
I
You have
just
to
wanna be
vote.
sure
Remember last
though,
time I told you you could vote next time?
Yeah.
That's now.
I just wanna be sure though, if, Ruth, do you have the last one? I just wanna make sure there's been no changes since the last time. we
Oh,
brought
okay,
it.
just a minute. I'll look at it. I'll get it.
I have the
Cause I
last
mean, a few
one.
things, the health insurance number,
Seven- this was the
75,
last
250,
just, wanna
75,
just tell me what your total is.
Okay, selectmen's
Oh.
a match.
Just give me the grand
Yeah,
total
yeah,
of the
yeah,
budget.
yeah, yeah. Grand total of department request, which
No,
one?
the second column, recommended.
Finance director recommends 17,414,776.
So it's different than that, it's changed.
68, well, the first page is the same if we wanna vote that.
Where are we?
65.
So you could look at the,
no,
categories,
this
so
is
total
changed.
general government,
Town council.
1,585,041.
Okay, and we got our answer on the technology question. Everyone saw that, correct?
Yep.
Do I need to read that again, or are we good? Do we need to hear it again?
No,
You remember?
yeah,
We asked whether it was a one-time thing, or
it's
whether it's
recurring.
It's
there
recurring.
are no, all the costs will remain and or increase over future years.
They are all licensing fees.
Yes, okay, so we know that.
Total general government, did you say?
Yeah.
1,585,041.
So that's the same. I wanna
And-
say it's health insurance, snow and ice, and maybe tree warden may have changed since the
Right,
last.
and the town clerk, I'm just looking at the whole front page here. The whole first page, which ends with, the town clerk budget. And we went with no 2% raise because a new person's going into office.
Yes, correct.
So, right.
And that's the standard they held with the
Okay.
highway superintendent.
So looking down this whole first page, guys, starting from the moderator to the town clerk,
That whole
we are in
page.
agreement with the selectmen recommendations
Yeah.
according to my notes.
Yes,
Yes? Do you wanna just
Vote on page by page?
Vote on the page, yeah,
Sure.
I mean, is that okay, Denise, to do that?
Yeah, Yeah, that's fine.
So it's implied that we're voting each of these
Yep.
lines, okay. So page one, do you wanna make a motion to agree with the
Yeah.
Board of Selectmen recommendations as favorable action on
I got a
everything
motion, we
through
take favorable action on the first page, all,
moderator,
from
selectmen,
moderator to town clerk.
and finance, accountant, Board of Assessors, town council, technology. Any discussion or questions? Okay, there being none, all in favor?
Did we do it? I will second
Oh,
that.
second, sorry.
And vote.
Now, all in favor?
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right, so let me turn my page here. Oh, okay, so
So what's the last
planning,
department on the first page? Do you have it?
municipal
town
building,
clerk.
Okay, thank you.
town clerk. I'm just comparing that to the page we discussed last time, Denise, it looks,
That's, I'm just gonna copy as I,
okay,
so
it
I-
looks. Oh, no, I'm on that page, okay, I'm good. So we did that page, and then, I'm on planning board already. Twice. Oh, I see, this page starts with conservation, okay, no, I'm okay still, so
We could do
conservation,
conservation through
let me just,
general
Insurance.
government. unless you wanna
conservation,
do that
yeah,
page.
yeah, let me just look at that, conservation's the same,
Planning,
planning's the
oh,
same.
zoning was the one, John.
We had a question on zoning, I didn't write it down, did I?
No, that was because they didn't submit
They
a
didn't
budget.
submit
Oh,
the
yeah, they
budget.
didn't submit a
Oh,
budget.
yes, so zoning though, if I can just take a second.
Oh, yeah, we did.
So they did not submit a budget. However, at Tuesday night's meeting, the town planner is making a recommendation or requesting or making a proposal that she assume the zoning administration duties. The clerk of the zoning board has resigned, and
Yes.
there's
So sorry.
there's a lot of overlap between planning and zoning, and she is making a proposal for an annual stipend of $4,000, and she will take all of the zoning responsibilities, do all the applications, do the minutes, attend their meetings, make their recommendations on their applications.
Where would
Um,
the stipend come from?
So it will come from, so my recommendation to the selectmen will be that out of the 2,500 in their expense,
Yes.
we move 2,000 into a salary line here, leave 500 in expenses, and the other 2,000 will come from their application fees that they collect through their revolving account.
And they should be able to do that.
They should be able to do
Cause
that.
this 2,500 was being used for pay their clerk.
Yes, correct. It was
Okay.
used for her partial salary, and then the rest came from the application fees.
Okay, so we're gonna
And
go.
she earned anywhere from $350 a month. Sometimes it was $100 a month. Sometimes it was $400 a month. Depends on how many hours she worked.
Okay, so it's still 2,500 in just the omnibus. It's still gonna be 2,500.
Yes.
2,000 is going to be
Salary.
a salary or a stipend? What are you gonna call it?
No, probably zoning administrator stipend.
Okay.
But we'll have to amend that on town meeting floor.
Oh, cause we
Because the
posted.
selectmen have already voted. So you can actually recommend it.
Well, have you posted this? Warren's
No, but the selectmen have voted. So you can make your recommendation right now, and we can do that.
But we can't change it in the book.
I
can we?
can.
Okay,
So if
so
you,
zoning administrative
thanks, Rich. Zoning administrator stipend.
stipend, okay. And that would be $2,000, and then $500,
Will
Would-
stay as expenses
and
if they
then
need.
we put a footnote here because an additional $2,000 for this position will come from where?
The zoning board revolving fund from the applications that they're taking up.
Does will they get enough money in?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
2,000? Oh,
Yes.
okay.
And it really will be a tremendous help here. You've all met Rebecca, she's fantastic.
Right, well,
Um,
she's here all the time.
And I don't wanna, right, and I said to her, I don't want you to request this if it's gonna add too much work, or you're gonna be away from your family. But one meeting or sometimes 2 meetings a month she said it's worth it for her end, cause she's here, she's fielding the questions, and she feels like currently there's not enough communication between zoning and planning. So if she can sort of work with both boards, she can improve the
That's good.
policies, the procedures, the
That's
permitting
fantastic.
process. She says people are getting the runaround because one board's acting upon the other board's authority. So I think it really will be fantastic. I don't see any reason why the selectmen won't support that.
Okay.
The co-chair of the zoning board has expressed that she supports it. Sam Jocelyn fully supports it because he can see the benefit from it. So I think it'll be fantastic,
Yeah.
and a great benefit to our applicants here through the
Great.
zoning.
So as the administrator, will she do the minutes?
She will, she said she would do the
Did
minutes so that they don't have to
everything,
hire somebody
Everything,
else.
okay.
She would do everything administrative.
Okay, that's fantastic.
She figures that it would add about 10 hours of work a month to her.
Okay. All right, so, on this page then, we made those 2 changes in the lines of zoning boards, but everything else is consistent. The only question we had was, is the property casualty insurance? The response was, it's up to us, right? Is that what you said? Do we want the VZ insurance broken out? Is
Right.
it, I think we said,
So the only reason I haven't split it out is because some years, like last year, they were able to fund 3 payments. And on our liability side, we had additional deductibles and things from accidents. So if we separate it and we're over in one, it really depends on what VZ can fund. So if it's one line, we can fund other insurance issues if they come up throughout the year. If they can't, it's all in the same bucket of money.
is it 2 policies?
Oh, yes,
Okay, so there is 2 separate policies with 2 separate costs attached.
correct. Well, this covers 3 policies, because this covers workers' comp, which is a separate whole policy. This covers workers' comp, liability insurance, and the VZ insurance.
So right now, you like having it in one line so that if you needed to move between the policies.
Right,
you
because it
can.
can't go to anything other than insurance, and if we have, like I said, a deductible, or they did a workers' comp audit and we were, over,
Okay.
so they had to give us a supplemental assessment, things like that. I will tell you, our actual property and casualty, is being level funded, there's no predicted increase in our actual premiums. So this should fully cover deductibles, any out-of-pocket costs, and all of VZ's insurance if they cannot
Okay,
make any
so
kind of payments.
Could we just get a copy of the cost for each of the 3 policies, so
Oh,
just so
yeah.
we know it?
Yeah, I can give you
Yeah.
the bills.
Yeah, that would, well, yeah, just the policy cost, right,
Yeah.
for there's the, you said what, workman's or whatever?
Workers' comp,
Workers' comp.
liability insurance, and VZ.
Okay, yeah, let's see it. Then we'll leave it alone for now?
Mhm.
All right. Okay, so why don't we vote then down through insurance? So the lines we're voting now are conservation, planning, the changes that we just discussed, the zoning board. Zoning board appeals would have a $2,000 zoning admin stipend, then $500 for the services and expense. Should we take out the word services now? They have no more contracted services. So just expenses, or,
I would say just leave that in case for some reason the selectmen don't,
okay.
approve that, then we could retransfer that money back and keep it
All
under
right,
contract
all right.
services.
And still a total of 2,500, and then municipal buildings and insurance. So do you wanna vote all those as shown on the, Omnibus.
Motion, favorable. Well, what are we calling this?
these are the finance board recommendations, we're
Right,
agreeing.
so we're not calling it favorable action.
Well, we're
because that
agreeing
was
with
on
the- put it this way,
articles,
we're
but now we're
agreeing-
calling it
Total general government.
Yeah, I
Well,
would vote,
favor,
right,
We're agreeing with the Board of Selectmen recommendations with the exception of the zoning board that we're breaking into 2 pieces right now, because they haven't done that yet.
Mhm.
That's it. Other than that, we're agreeing with, this document here has all the selectmen recommendations.
yes, I know, I'm just trying to say, we're not calling it favorable action anymore, we're calling it recommendations.
These are recommendations,
Favorable
yes.
recommendations.
Okay, so all in favor?
So, I will make a
Oh, you didn't make,
motion,
oh, sorry, I forgot
sorry,
that.
Ruth, I made the motion.
And a second, please?
Second.
Okay. Now all in favor?
so Ruth, I would just say for your minutes, the recommendations as discussed, so maybe that's what.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Alright, okay, and so now we're up to the police.
So the
and-
police, the selectmen approved the, additional patrolmen and the funding that goes along with it. Did not support the vehicle lease. I met with the chief at length about this. He agreed to remove it this year. He did say that he would like to still explore the option if he can get grants or have additional money in one of his grant lines to cover the first year of the lease.
So is it coming off this line?
Yes.
Yeah, so the
It's
13,730 is
come
not
off, it's taken-
recommended.
So we don't have to vote on it then if it's coming off? There's nothing more for us
Unless
to
we,
do?
we thought he should get the.
Well,
Right,
we
well,
don't,
it's
we
still
don't,
recommended, so it will be in there with a 0 for, the requested. So it will be
I
a
thought you
0 as
said he was
recommended.
gonna remove it.
No, he was
We
okay with
already
me
did.
proposing
Okay.
to not recommend
So
it.
he's going to look for a grant.
He will look for a grant and see if he can fund it an additional or another way in the first year if he has that kind of money.
Okay, and then if not, he'll be back next year for it. Okay, so he's looking for a grant. So, other than that, do you agree with the selectmen recommendations on the police department? And the Let's do police department and the parking clerk, that's easy. Right, it is.
Yeah, it finishes that page.
Yeah, police department and parking clerk, what do you say? You agree with the recommendations as shown?
Yes, I will make a motion to agree with the
Okay.
board's
We accept the police
recommendations.
department's, Board of Selectmen recommendations.
Do we have a second on that?
Yeah.
Okay, on favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Okay, so now, I'm comparing, what did you change here for us?
Yeah, so the fire department has not changed from the original, from the last one. I know the question came up about the inspector's salary. It's still up to the Board of Selectmen, even though the fire chief appoints, the selectmen still set all rates. So as I've said to them, I mean, it really doesn't matter to me if you wanna leave it at 5 or increase it to 10. The rate cannot be changed without board approval, so.
Okay, well, that's a good thing.
I recommended to them, you know, they are doing more and more inspections, you certainly could keep it there if we don't need it, but, we chose not to fund the stipends at this time.
Good,
We lowered the, company reporting in hopes that a new chief would take over some of those duties and have a better handle on it. Drill
So-
wages was lowered to offset the fire academy, and then we lowered it a little more, hoping that a new chief could look at that process of training every Tuesday night, training at the current hourly rate versus having a set training rate, things like that.
yeah. So, let me just, what lines, are these that different from what we saw the other night?
No, nothing's changed from what you saw,
Okay, except for the company reports like $140 less,
but that still should have been what you saw.
yeah. That's their reduction, because the request was for,
In the budget book, but this was,
the department requested $7,140.
Yes.
Is that what they requested? I thought it was more. 7,140? That's
Yes.
a weird number.
Yes, so we brought it back down to 7,000.
What a savings, $140.
It was more what makes up the $140
is it
extra.
2%? Is it 2%?
I don't know what it is. It's hard to say. We doubled it last year, but at least now the fire call wages are staying as call wages.
Yes.
And you're going ahead with the consolidating, we're separating out the academy again. After they asked to put it back in, now they want it back out.
Right, well, the previous chief wanted to mix it in so he could do with it as he wanted.
Yes,
The acting chief thought it was best to separate it out and actually identify
okay.
separate training. The EMS recertification, I don't know
Yeah.
if he talked about that when he came here. I don't remember. That is
Yeah, they
for,
talked about
to
that.
cover the cost of everyone being recertified.
Yes, we talked about that.
And then the expense side, I think everything that they requested was
Were
recommended.
you here the night that he came?
Yes,
This is-
I had to think about it for a minute, but yes.
Do the
I-
Yeah.
selectmen have to approve if they buy everybody 2 sets of turnout gear? Please say yes. Oh my God.
Technically, the selectmen are supposed to, or have
Okay,
the ability to approve equipment.
Good.
It depends
Well,
what you consider
A new
equipment.
chief would take care of that, because the fire equipment's supposed to be smelly. Okay, I'm sorry, it just is. It shows that you went to a fire. Okay, should we just vote the fire department then, as shown? As recommended by the, Board of Selectmen, or what?
Yeah,
What are we gonna do, guys?
I will make a motion, we vote in line with the Board of Selectmen
Okay.
recommendation.
What do you say?
There's going to be quite a noise about the first item, you realize.
Yes, I do realize.
So be prepared.
Well, I fully expect, I mean, my personal opinion is that that salary is going to offset a lot of money that's being, especially the transfers this year are far more than $7,000 for company report. I don't even wanna know what total, what are we at now for company report this year, total,
Right now, 10,100.
and going, with the transfer we just approved?
No, that's what's been spent to date.
Yeah, and we just transferred how much, 9,000?
9.
So we're talking $20,000 in company report. Right, exactly. So this number
Holy
here,
moly.
this 7,000 is not realistic, it's really $20,000, and I fully expect
We
that
could have
this
a
new.
part-time firefighter 5 days a week.
Right, and I fully expect this new chief is going to take control of that, specifically, as
Okay,
well as some of the inspections.
okay.
Yeah.
That's all right, move along.
All right, I mean, we could talk about
We
the
need a
fire
second.
department.
Okay,
Forever.
and so, should we do the
Forever.
communications, all the fire budget at once, as recommended by the Board of Selectmen, what do you
Yeah.
say? 363,809.
Yes, I vote
353.
Oh, 353, sorry, I got it.
Right, that's it.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, sorry.
Make a motion, we vote in line with the Board of Selectmen.
Right.
Okay, do you have a second on that?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. So now we have the building department and the emergency management. Is there anything, I don't think we had any questions on those before. And these look like the same numbers we talked about. Can we finish out public safety with a motion on building department and emergency management in line with the selectmen recommendations?
Yes,
Yes?
I will make that motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, education budget is set. There's not much to talk about. Could I get a motion on that?
Making a motion, we accept the education budget.
Okay, can we get a second?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor of education? Yes. Okay, and the tree warden, $25,000 worth of trees. Jeez, I think that's ridiculous.
That is ridiculous.
I think it is
It
like,
would probably cost us 100,000 if we actually took down all the trees that needs to come down.
I
We've been
know,
putting
it's
it
just
off.
that we've never done this and to start out with 20, I mean, that's a lot of trees. A tree maybe costs what, $500 to $1,000 to take down?
It costs us probably $10,000 to have a tree company come in for a couple days. We have a lot of trees. Actually, the selectmen and I agree that we probably need to do $25,000 a year for the next few years just to get caught up, and then we can start to just maintain on an annual basis. We have, you
So
can't
this-
imagine the trees in town that are unsafe that we just keep putting off because we don't
So
have money
these are
for.
the
gonna
two
be
big
trees
trees
that
on
are
Main Street.
just removed, right? So are
Yeah.
people
Sorry.
going to get forewarning that a tree in there, I know it's not their tree, but it's,
I don't think they've
It's
identified all the
town,
trees.
no, we haven't identified what needs, but we have a lot of trees that we keep putting off.
I-
And it's town property and they're dangerous, and when the light department can cover costs for us, they do because they're
yeah.
impacting wires, but
You don't have to pay prevailing wage on this, right?
You have to pay hire a tree company.
it's a service.
It's a service. It'll just be,
Also, I thought there was a cap that if you only spent like 5,000 at a time.
10,000.
10,000,
No.
yeah.
No, $1 on prevailing wage, everything.
On,
I can have a
on,
light bulb change and I pay prevailing wage.
see, that's.
Hour
what-
for hour, it's a lot of money, but we have a ton of trees in town that need to be removed and
Okay,
dealt with.
so, who's in control of this 25,000 to make,
So, at the moment, it's our elected tree warden. If it passes, which is Mark Parento,
yeah,
the highway department has always handled it. If the, question passes the ballot to make the position appointed, it's built into the new highway superintendent's job description. He would become
oh, okay, so.
a tree warden.
Okay, and so then, and he reports to the board of because that was my concern, is to give this kind of money and they have no idea what trees are gonna be removed and when. I'd be a little concerned if we ended up,
It would seem to me it would be an expense item added to the highway department or someplace.
well, yes.
Well, it can be in the future, once we
In
make
the
the position
future,
appointed.
because this has to be added somewhere. It can't like stand out, we only chop trees.
I know, it looks bad,
Okay.
right?
So-
Okay, so we got that asked and answered, and the highway department, we didn't have any other concerns about, is that right? I don't see anything. Oh, highway fuel, but you answered that you wanted to separate the fuel out, so that you have a little more money in his expense line
Correct.
to use for other purposes.
And that other departments have separated that
Right, so
out.
this was the only
Also,
department that
he
didn't
just
have a
So
separate.
now it's in line with
Okay,
everything else.
so those
that's
were our
good.
questions, so should we vote trees and highways?
We got ice removal increased by 25 grand. That's all it was,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yes, so I
Yeah.
was able to go up another 25,000 on snow and
Well, I think
ice.
we should, yeah, cause this was not the normal winter.
Correct, this was not the normal winter. We got off very easy this year, but, as you know, we've been transferring in the past up to 150,000 more, so
Okay,
another 25 will help us, if we have a more normal winter.
okay.
That
good.
front end loader lease, how many years does that go for?
So it's pretty much continual. Every 5 years, they lease a new loader because of the wear and tear on it.
This is been on
So it's pretty much a standard line item, but every 5 years, we get a new vehicle and renew a lease.
Okay. All right, any more questions, anybody?
Mm-mm.
All right, so all in favor of, tree warden and highways?
What about rubbish collection?
rubbish.
Do that at the
Well,
same
we-
time.
Is that on the?
Yeah.
It's on this page.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, we might as well, okay, rubbish, we need to get the rubbish picked up.
Yep, so rubbish, I put in the book, the calculation breakdown. The cost of recycling is skyrocketing. The first year of our contract, we were paying a couple $100 a month for recycling. We're up to between $2,600 and $3,200 a month for recycling.
Cause it's supposed to save us money.
But it doesn't because the commodity has skyrocketed and China's not accepting
I
the
know, China doesn't
recycling. And
accept the recycling.
so it's happening, it's everywhere. I
I
mean,
know,
if you look at all the municipal websites, we're having forums
it-
on recycling.
and is there still a value towards recycling even though it's not?
It doesn't seem to be,
So
does it?
there's an environmental
Well,
value.
environmentally, there is.
If we don't recycle, we're gonna pay the tonnage on the trash. So we're still paying to dispose of those items.
I understand that, so is it cheaper to pay for the recycling than to pay the tonnage?
I'm not making that public statement.
Okay, we don't know, okay.
Oh, you do know,
So-
don't you?
Well, I'm not telling people to not recycle. I mean, I think
But it's
that's something the
cheaper
town would have to
than
decide if we don't wanna recycle
I,
it.
So-
I understand, but basically there is no advantage anymore, right?
Well,
There is not much of an
on our
advantage.
recycling contract, does it go by how much recycling, do they weigh it or something?
Yep.
Okay.
Just like the tonnage of trash, it's all weighed.
Okay.
And the recycling is, so the difference here is, with the trash, we are locked into a set tonnage amount. With the recycling, because it's a commodity, it is on a commodity scale, so if the commodity skyrockets, our price skyrockets.
Oh.
Trash contracts, you can't lock, that's why all these companies went bankrupt, because they were locking into a recycling rate and then it skyrocketed and trash companies couldn't sustain it anymore. So all the new trash contracts call for a commodity rate. If it and if it decreases, then our rate decreases. So the budget request is $3,500 a month for recycling. This month, I just signed the bill today. I think it was the highest it's been, and it was $3,200.
Yeah.
It said 200 all the way up to
So-
3,200.
I'd love to talk more about this trash thing, but we need to
But
move
it's,
on.
no, it's not
Yeah,
figured
so-
out yet, it's an
Yeah,
ongoing issue.
I agree, it's
Right,
an
so
ongoing
hopefully
Okay.
that'll be enough.
Alright, so let's make
So
a
we need a
vote on
motion.
tree
We need a
warden,
motion.
highways and rubbish
I
collection.
will make the motion
To recommend as in agreement with the
Second.
board of
in agreement
selectmen,
with the board.
Okay.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so cemetery, I'll step out, you guys voted, I'll use the bathroom. There's no issues there, I don't think.
No.
We're good.
We lost the chairman. By the way, if Kathy gets elected, we will have a
We can't
vacancy.
talk about that
We
right
will
now.
have a vacancy on the board,
You already have vacancies, cause there's only 5 of you and there's
I
a 7-member
understand.
board.
but we'll need to hustle.
I need a drink.
If Kathy resigns her position, yes.
And she said she's going to,
All right,
if she gets elected.
Does someone wanna move the cemetery budget?
I will move, we recommend in line with the board of selectmen.
Second. Of course, it's
all in
difficult to,
favor?
it's hard to vote that
Wish
when
you
there isn't
luck.
a,
It's
there isn't
okay.
a,
Aye, in favor?
There isn't a what?
We need to wait for Kath.
No, I don't know. Oh, no, we don't. We have, she's an abstention, she said she was
Okay,
abstaining
all
and
right, I
left.
didn't hear that when
Yeah.
she walked out, okay.
Yes, so she's an abstention.
Oh, because of the cemetery?
I'm abstending.
It's not like, you
Gosh.
know,
how come?
Because my husband's a cemetery commissioner.
Oh, that's right.
Did you guys vote it?
That's,
Yeah.
yes, it's
So-
done.
Okay,
The Board of Health, the selectmen approved the increase in hours for the nurse and the clerk. I'm sorry, not the nurse, the agent and the
the
clerk.
agent. okay.
right, and we had come to the same conclusion because they gave us, it took us a while to go through, but what it essentially came down to is the number of septic systems that they're dealing with. We felt one time make the change in hours and then people, this was important, we wanna convey this to the Board of Selectmen, I don't know if we need to write a letter, but we need for them now to stay within their hours.
I think you should, it's not the Board of Selectmen.
Why are they getting more than the 2%?
Right, I'm trying to think of what we recommended, what number are they in our,
On
I
this-
see
Our last meeting, we talked about the
25.
director and not the other.
You got another 194 minutes, so when I got another battery after that, so.
We won't need 194 more minutes.
We're
Oh,
close,
please.
we're very
If
close.
we need
now.
194 minutes, we're gonna never make it.
I won't make it, that's for
So
sure.
at our last meeting, we talked about the 5% for the director and 2% for the other two,
Yeah, that,
the
and
support,
that freezes it,
because
and this up
Everyone
here
else is
shuts it
getting
off.
2%.
everyone else gave
I just
2%
wanted it
and
on
the
board. You
case
didn't
wasn't
have it on
made
the board.
otherwise.
The part-time
Okay.
van driver
Or
is
justified.
2%.
That's right.
But the
Closer to
program
25.
coordinator, yeah, why is that at 5%?
Well, it shouldn't be, it should be
Well,
at
that's
2%,
because
that's the point.
Okay, yeah,
All right. that's
I
what-
don't
yeah.
have any notes about that, I'm surprised.
Well,
Well, she was just looking out for herself and her team.
That's correct.
so the selectmen's discussion on this was, they're not here, so I should ask them, but, so they felt that they deserved the 5% each? Okay.
They felt the presentation was made and they supported it.
She went and her, board,
Her
When?
whole board went, yes, the council on aging members all
but they
attended.
discussed it as a whole, or they discussed her and the other two were sort of tacked on. There wasn't the separation of concepts made.
Right, the paperwork and most of the discussion surrounded the director's position.
And then the other two were just sort of along for the ride. I'm comfortable separating them, and
I agree.
again, the,
The
Board of
outreach is a
Selectmen
part-time
said
worker,
it.
right? That's a
Yes.
pa-
I'm sorry, they're both part-time.
They're both
Right,
part-time.
cause so to give 5% raises to part-time, I don't understand.
I agree, it should be 2%, period.
and that, you know, if the board already suggested it, and I think as with the water department, we at least have made our recommendation for the record, and
Okay,
And
so
consistent.
comfortable with that.
why don't
and we're
we, yeah, cause we need to have a basis for our recommendations, I don't wanna come
Okay.
across willy-nilly, you know, so we have our recommendation for the director based on her comparison to other to me, it struck me the other positions within our own town,
Yes,
equivalent to her level of responsibilities.
yes.
I mean, we just saw the office manager for the water and sewers, what, 65,000? Yeah, so, but the part-time workers are in line with a lot of our part-time workers, if not being paid pretty well, I would say. Like the library is part-time, that's in line with these salaries, wouldn't you say?
I do think the outreach worker is probably a little under what it should be.
Is it because of hours, or is it because of
No,
payment
it's
per-
both. I would say when it's become vacant, they haven't requested to increase the rate when we've reposted it, and it's stayed at a lower rate. But that being said, I don't know what the going rate is. I don't know where it falls in line with.
And we don't have data on that,
Right,
so.
we do not.
Right, we don't have information on that.
Well, set that aside, do they get the 2% or do they get the 5%?
I think the 2%, if we're
Ah,
being consistent, if we're
I
saying
think
that.
2% is my reckon.
Same here.
And then
Alright,
5% for the director.
So I will make a motion
Mhm.
that we recommend 5% for the director and 2% for the program coordinator and the outreach worker.
Right, and what
which
we-
is consistent with
Right,
the raises for the others.
And-
The exception in the case wasn't
Mhm.
made as it was with the director's
I
salary.
agree, and in our letter where we summarize our recommendations, we should highlight the non-2% raises that we're recommending for and why, and that will bring it to the forefront, so to speak, what our logic is throughout the whole thing.
Well, I don't think you can say over here it's 2% and here it's 2%.
No, we could say that overall, we recommended for a 2% across the board raise with these following exceptions. What are you saying? I'm not sure what you're trying to.
What I'm saying is it should be consistent. So if 2% is the milestone, then it's 2%.
Well, except for places where we found there
We
was an
thought, well,
inequity
we're
in this.
treating that as a pay equity issue
Pay equity
amongst
issue.
other,
Yes, we
other
are.
department
Right,
heads,
except for where
okay?
there was an exception that was,
Cause even with the raise compared to other office management type positions in our own town, she's below,
Yeah, well,
right? What does the assessor manager get?
she's a manager.
Right, well, so is
She's
the.
part-time. The assessing manager is part-time.
How much does she get?
50.
She doesn't work full-time?
No, she's at 53. She works 32 hours a week.
Okay, so she
Oh.
she works part-time at 53, the office manager for water and sewer.
I mean, I would say the comparison would be the town clerk who's at 60, the library director who's at 61.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Those are really sort of the grouped. They're
So we might need to make another bump next year if we really want to.
I mean, I remember one of the selectmen talking to the superintendent that wanted the 3% increase on, why would he get 3% when everyone else was getting 2%?
Right.
And that selectman was pretty adamant about that. So,
Well, my question is, if we ever changed it, we went 3% across the board, then are people gonna start asking for 4%?
Yes.
I've never quite understood this because the
Well-
2%, 3%, it's not that big a difference, but it's a matter of fairness.
well,
To
hidden
everybody.
in all this is like a merit mentality, okay? But we
Yeah.
don't have a merit-based system.
We don't have a merit.
Right,
You know,
or
but that's
if
the
you could-
mentality.
Right, but if you could provide documentation to show, you know.
If you went up and beyond,
Correct, so, I mean, and I'll be honest, and it was brought up the other night, I requested a merit increase for the facilities. But I can clearly show where he saved us money, where he's taking responsibility, we're paying, so, to me, that's not, I didn't request a percentage, I requested a dollar amount merit increase for him. And that's a separate circumstance, that someone could then request a merit increase.
but to me, okay, first of all, municipalities don't overpay anybody, okay? Okay, so they're already coming in, the best pay agreement they're gonna get is the day they start, because after that, it's gonna be progressive.
It'll be on the, it's on the benefits.
But, yeah, the benefits are good, but I don't know, I just think I like these people, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not about them, it's about, I don't know how you can say this over here, and then, you know, over here, health gets 2%, I know they got an hour increase, but it's still 2%,
Right,
without the.
Yes, yeah.
So where do we say, how do we define that? You know,
well, I
guess-
think we're gonna try to in our overall summary, we have to have a basis for right now, there's no personnel review system, so we end up reviewing these personnel situations, unfortunately, we end up having to kinda look at what are they trying to do and why, is
Well,
it,
if you show me
is
how
it
much
more
money
hours, or is it that
you
they don't?
save money and you can actually show it,
Yes,
soft money's a funny thing to play
Yeah.
with, but real solid dollars, then, it's tough to debate whether that person should get some increase,
Well,
because we're saving money on the expense
the
side.
facilities manager is easy to quantify because we're not bringing in outside contracted help to fix things, so that, to
Yeah.
me, is
But,
very
okay.
concrete, something you
So-
can absolutely, it's not vague, it's not avoided cost, it's,
No.
we're not doing this anymore. So, I understand that, and I guess until we get to a point where we have a system that speaks differently, I don't see how you can do it any differently than what we're trying to do.
And I still maintain that you need one entity overseeing everybody, because people that work for all different elected boards and committees,
Yes.
they're gonna look differently upon their
Yes.
specific employees.
They do.
they are.
And so it's never gonna be equitable, because one's gonna fight for 6% and this board might not like their clerical or whatever.
Right,
They don't do any less of a job, but you're working with elected officials that come
Right.
and go, and
but
Yeah.
hopefully, I mean,
It's tough.
I'm hoping that the people, we've had people that have been here a long time, and I value that, I think that that's a good thing for a town, that people want to stay here and work here, and the fact that 5 people are running for town clerk indicates that people want to work here.
Like I
And,
said, it pays.
it's pays, it's a nice town, I think it's a nice working atmosphere, I know there's little things here and there that go on, but overall, I think it's a nice working atmosphere, it's a pleasant town to work in, and, we've improved the town hall, we've improved the grounds, it's something to be proud of, and so, I think we're just trying to do the best we can, and I think we can make a case for the changes that we've, recommended for, and people have every right, if they wanna disagree with us and say that we shouldn't be doing that, they can disagree with us, but we do have a right to make a recommendation if we feel that it's warranted. That's our task here.
Now, it was very well spoken, but may we please move
Well, let's
along?
vote, okay,
so this budget will be $132,706.
132,706.
Yes, with those changes.
And that's with 5% for the director and then 2%, 2%.
Yes,
And the
correct.
part-time van driver is level funded,
Correct.
because we're getting a new person, right?
Well, it's not
Okay.
level funded, it's 2%, we have 2 van drivers.
Oh.
You're recommending what's,
Oh,
been
I see,
requested.
yes, we're 2% on that too,
Yes.
okay, we're good.
And
Okay.
the debt service is the same.
Okay, so I made the motion for 5% director.
I'm trying to move us
Yes.
along.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
So-
Denise, I'm trying to move things along.
Did we vote the Board of Health? Did we vote Board of
No.
Health yet? No.
I think you were doing those together.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought too.
And why don't we do veterans, so any questions on veterans?
No.
Okay, so the Board of Health, the selectmen went along with what we were leaning towards, the additional hours for the sanitation agent
Yeah.
and the clerk, right?
Yes.
Yes, and we are in agreement with that?
Sure.
I think we kind of were leaning that way at the last meeting. Okay, and then that would bring us down to agreeing with their total of 60,000, oh my goodness, 850.
855.
So you have to
855.
eliminate these numbers that we have on the far right.
Yeah.
Correct. Eliminate those on the far right, correct. And then down below though, on the, Council on Aging, the total that we would be recommending to be 132,706.
Yes.
Which would consist of agreeing with the 57,407, but we would be changing the program coordinator, outreach worker, and part-time van driver down to 2%.
No.
No, not the van driver, just the,
Yeah.
the,
Program
sorry, program and
coordinator
outreach
and the
worker
outreach
back down to
worker.
2%.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's that, okay. And then veterans would stay. So can I have a motion as I just described on that?
I will make that motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Library, we had some things on that.
Uh,
Did you, what happened with the selectmen? They went with everything?
Yep.
I think we did
Yeah,
too,
we
because
did.
they,
Their budget was in
Right.
accordance with the
It was a
required state
matter of
spending and the
Meeting
minimum wage.
minimum wage
medium and
and
one,
adjusting the next.
right, okay,
All
so,
I said at the last meeting is that the state has mandated a schedule of getting up to the, so we're gonna be going through this for the next 2 or 3 years of double increasing people.
I think we are, yeah, I think we are.
Yes, I agree, we are.
So, okay, so library and total debt service, we could probably agree with the Board of Selectmen's recommendation if you wanna make a motion for those two. You want to so move it?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to
Okay.
accept those two items.
I'll say, so we'll be, not accepting, we're recommending the same as, is
Yeah.
basically it.
I
And
will
then-
second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh my God, we're at the end.
No, we're on another page.
No.
Unclassified.
I know, but there's hardly anything
She's
there.
saying we're nearing.
Don't
Almost
get
the end.
carried away, there's
This is
still
very
one on the other side of the page.
Oh, would you like to discuss these?
And Essex County retirement contribution, no.
Okay, so do you wanna just make a motion to
I make a
accept?
motion to accept.
So we'll recommend as the selectmen are recommending, in alignment.
Yeah, I guess so.
Why
Alright.
would it differ from
Why are they
the department
why is the
requested?
contribution lower?
Because if
Because
you'll
Denise
recall-
got new numbers.
Oh, yeah,
you
yeah,
recall when Sue
somebody
was here, she explained, she might have
changed.
missed that meeting. The town of Topsfield fought their, not Topsfield,
Who was it? Somebody-
Boxford. Boxford fought their recommendation or their appropriation and they recalculated it, saved
Okay.
us a couple $1,000s.
All right, and, should we make a motion? Yes, did we?
Yes,
You did,
I
John,
make
right?
a motion.
Do we second it?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and we don't have our grand total yet, so we can,
17,
you do have
I'll
it.
double check it, but 17,418,772.
Sounds like,
Nearly 18
Is this
million.
balanced?
sounds good.
Thank you. Okay, make the motion for 17,418,772.
I will make a motion. 17,418,772 is the grand total of the budget.
Yep, and we have a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Article 40 sets the salaries. We recommend favorable on it usually. Can we make a motion? It just sets the salaries that we've already set, but we already
Make a
recommend.
motion to accept Article
Recommend
40.
favorable.
Recommend favorable action.
And we need a second.
Article 40.
And we need a second.
I will second.
Okay, and we don't need to talk about it. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and this I don't think we have anything to do with, right?
No, that's the election warrant.
Okay, then I think,
That's it.
people,
We're done.
we're done, so we just need to draft our little letter that summarizes what we're saying. Print it up, put it in a booklet, call it a day.
So now, are you having, Whittier students work on the booklet?
No, that was when I was gonna have them work on the PowerPoint, but
Oh,
then
okay.
that got tabled.
Okay.
Yeah, we could, I mean, I was thinking actually this year, the booklet, rather than trying to put it in Excel and make it tie the numbers, cause they always are off by like pennies, that I would just freeze it from using, put it right into Word, cause then we can put
That's
the
fine.
footnotes in easier. And then if a number has to change, we'll just type it in.
Yeah, so if, I mean, you can certainly clean it up, if you want me to clean it up and take out the selectmen and just leave the finance recommended column, and,
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
I can
just,
certainly give it to you.
just
if you
hide
want.
the selectmen column, cause we don't show that in our book,
Right,
right?
but I don't think in the past, have you put the previous years, do you want any
We
of that
did,
too?
yeah, last year we did, we showed, I'm trying to think, where's the book?
It's in the annual report, actually.
Oh, here, no, I carry this with me. Of course she does. How sad is that? So, yeah, we have, it looked
Oh,
like
you
that.
did appropriated
Yeah.
request,
So
so you
what-
just appropriated, you don't want the, previous year.
Appropriated, yeah,
Right.
department,
Yeah.
finance board, and then the change, and then we were able to put our little notes in. So I'll just, like I say, I'll just take it from Excel right to Word, and that way we can, cause last time it took too long to do it the other way. Remember I kept looking for that couple of pennies?
Right.
I
It's so
don't want
hard.
it to be
It's such a pain.
All
And
right,
this way we can put our footnotes in and everyone can see it as we're working on it and get it ready.
I'll double check, all the line items tomorrow, make sure the total is correct, and then I'll send you the final spreadsheet.
Right. I'm thinking we should have this somewhere and I should be able to just put this into Word, the format here, and then just go from there, right? That'd be easy. I'm sure I have it.
I'll let you shuffle the paper.
Oh, it's gonna be easy. It's
As
like,
you- as
once
you
you've
wish.
done it once, you're just changing. The hard part for
Right.
me is when I try and use all Denise's formulas and then it starts to go,
Can I
Oh,
make
no.
a motion
yeah, you make a motion to adjourn.
during the meeting?
Excellent.
Okay,
Excellent. I
so-
second that.
We're gonna
All
redo
in
the same,
favour?
the same
Uh,
tables.
stop
Guys,
the
we're gonna redo
machine.
the same tables, right?
Sure,
Did you
Yeah,
vote
we
to
like
adjourn?
them.
yes.
And, except the capital improvement, there's only one thing.
That's
The-
right. That
So
makes
do you
you
wanna